Testing. 1, 2, 3. Wait a minute. I gotta remember my keybinds. There's a button that shows the desktop. Looking for it. Hold on. If I press the wrong one, it'll close the stream. Okay, there we go. Hello, it is I, Project Feline, again with another Project Feline live stream. Thanks so much for joining on such short notice. I've been meaning to get a regular stream schedule back, and I thought Wednesday's a good day. But at the time I decided on Wednesday, it was already halfway through Wednesday, and I've just been a bit busy this morning. But for the next few weeks, on this day of the week at 12 a.m. UTC, I'm going to be streaming some of this exciting thing. So those who have read the title and thumbnail, pretty hyped from the looks of it. Thanks so much for being here. 30 people already. Gosh, that's incredible. I'm just going to write... I got to do my SEO and links and stuff. So I'm just going to pin this in the chat so that you go wishlist the game, by the way, because those help. And I accidentally put an extra slash in one of the URLs. Just ignore that. So, this is Gabby. And I know you're probably like, whoa, wait a minute, Ray. That doesn't look quite like Gabby. But also, it kind of does, but it kind of doesn't. So I'm currently working on an all-new model for Gabby. And I should probably I should open the old one. I gotta show you guys the old one as to why. I want to do a little run through on what's going on, why it's going on, and then we'll jump into it. So I'm going to make this short, but if we open the old model, if Blender wants to cooperate, actually, where is the old model? I don't know if I've got, is it in my recent files? Aha, here we go. So let me show you the old one, and I'm going to show you some problems. And we'll go through what we're doing. So this is Gabby's model currently in the game. It's a little, actually the game model's a little different, the textures are a little different in the game, but this is what her model looked like at the time I had made it in Blender. And it's alright, but it's definitely not spectacular. And I reckon now I could probably do something way better. And to start off with, I've never quite been happy with the hair. It just looks a bit like someone who doesn't know how to model hair tried making hair, which is exactly what happened. I think it's the details a bit too much. It's kind of the shape, just it doesn't really have a shape. It's just kind of like spikes, and it's a little much, and especially from the back. And the back view is crucial because that's the one you see all the time. So I've never been that happy with how it came out because I've had to look at this model every day for like the last couple of years now, and it's always bothered me. There's also the clothes, which have some issues. And here's the deceptive thing, is that these issues aren't visible in Blender. These are problems that you only see in the game. And that's where her clothes kind of clip into parts of her body underneath on certain animations. And the problem is, because you might say, oh, well, Ray, that sounds like a weight painting problem. And you would be wrong, because it is in fact a deeper problem than that. And I want to show you why that is. So it's a little hard to see, but you see how she's got this tank top and then she's got her body underneath, right? And you'll notice that the edge flow doesn't quite line up with the body exactly. It sort of goes over the top, because that's kind of the best solution I could come up with at the time. I don't think the singlet actually has any volume, like it's just a flat object, so it doesn't have anything on, it doesn't have any three-dimensional on the sides or whatever, so if you look at it from underneath here, you can actually see that it's invisible. Now, of course, you're not going to look at it that close in the game, so why am I bringing this up? Well, the reason this is a problem is because when Gabby moves and deforms, like when she's doing animations, the singlet will like clip into her skin because the vertices on the singlet are not lined up with the vertices on her shoulder. Like, they don't follow the same flow. And because of that fact, no amount of weight painting is going to make it perfectly track with the shoulder. So there is a way to avoid doing that, but it isn't weight painting. It's called making a new model and thinking it through and having to like plan in advance how the costume's going to work, which is what I've been working on. So this sort of problem you can't fix with just fixing up the weights and the bones. Like this is like a fundamental model problem. There's also some other issues that I want to take you guys through. So by the way, I don't know how much of you guys are familiar with game development. I'm always working, so I don't really pay attention to the audience that much. Because I get a lot of feedback and comments, and I just can't listen to it all the time. So I don't have a good idea on how technical or how you're just a gamer or you're a game developer. I'm not sure what the mix is. So if anything is going over your head, feel free to like ask it, like in the chat or something. I'll try and like explain it more. Or someone else in chat might be able to. But let me know if I'm getting too technical. Because I honestly don't know how, because it makes sense to me, but that's me, and I'm not the viewer. You guys are the viewers. You guys got to tell me. But hopefully what I've explained so far is understandable. This next problem here, I want to show you some of the topology and edge flow on the model itself. So you'll notice that, especially the face, it's very high poly. I don't know, maybe by today's standards it isn't, but I think it's a bit... It's kind of high poly for what it needs to be, and it's not a performance thing or anything. It's nothing to do with it runs bad. That's not really my concern. It's more the polygons and how they influence the shading and how they form the shape of the body and how they deform, which is like how they move when you have it rigged. Because now that I've had to look at this model a bit more, I've kind of pointed out where issues are. And I think I can come up with ways to address fixing them, hopefully. One of the problems is her legs and her general proportions are all a bit off. Her hips are a bit too wide. She doesn't really have shoulders. Like, she just does not have shoulders. And I think that's a bit of a problem because they look really awkward, especially if you get like some animations going. Where's her rig? I don't know where her rig is. How do I show the rig? Yeah, so if I like pose her in some... I'm trying to find a pose that's like, I don't know. That's an old animation. There we go, that's a newer one. Like if we have her arms raised... Wait, oh, that's the... I just want to turn off the bones. Yeah, so you see what happens to her neck and her arms? So I know people probably don't look at this that closely, but... This creates, you know, because it obviously Gabby's not real. I'm sorry, to break the illusion. Gabby isn't real, but with the right arrangement of polygons, you can convince people she's real. And when you have little problems like this come up, it kind of breaks the illusion. There's the other goal I'm trying to do where I want people looking at this model and going, is this a sprite or is this a model? And I think I've gotten that reaction a bit. I think it's like 80% there. But it's not fully there. Like it's almost, but there's still a few things that kind of break the illusion, and this is like some of what I'm talking about, right? It's this kind of stuff, which seems minor, but those little minor things add up to create the image, the impression that you, the player, will have. And if your impression is off, then that's a problem. Because if I have this character in trailers or marketing material or what have you, or a Twitter GIF, and people look at it and it's like cool, but there's something a bit off about it, that's going to be an issue. That actually might affect sales, which sounds kind of a bit of a conspiracy theory, but I've come across, you know, I don't play a lot of games, I don't buy a lot of new games, but I'll have a look around on what's on, you know, what's trending or whatever, what's on social media. I look at like other indie devs pop up in my algorithm, and sometimes I'll actually go and check out the page. But if anything looks slightly off, I usually just ignore it. So I have to think, well, that might happen to me. So what can I do to leave a better impression? And a lot of my goals at the moment, because I haven't let a lot of you guys in on what my big major milestone is next. And I don't want to go into that at the moment because there's a lot of like plans. But one of my goals is to improve people's like the impression of the game, the look of the game, how it looks on first glance, because I think that's very important to leave a good impression. And I think it's close. It just needs a bit more. And yeah, also her legs. I was going to mention her legs too. Here's another issue that the model has with... do I have like her walk animation? Yeah. So you'll notice that her legs kind of bend outwards, like bowed legs. And the reason that is because when I was modeling this with my reference image, the drawing had legs that bent out that way, but I didn't notice it. It wasn't until after I modeled it, after I rigged it, that I noticed that the legs were bent outwards. And that's not so good, because the legs look strange, and they don't look how they're meant to. Luckily, her armor kind of covers it up, but it's just a band-aid, you know? Like, it isn't really fixing it. It's just hiding it. And I also had to do this thing with the animations, where when I was animating it, because when I would bend her legs, the legs would bend outward. So I had to, like, rotate her legs in the keyframes to account for that bend. And it's kind of not a great solution. But it makes it harder. It makes the animations look a bit strange too. And this is something I've received comments about. And I know I'm not very active in my comments section, but this goes to show that I do listen and find feedback where I can. And one of the bits of feedback that I've been trying to keep in mind is that, you know, people have said that the animations look a little bit off, right? Like, I don't know if I can loop around some of these or not. I know this is very sped up I don't know why it's sped up so fast. I think it's because I made this in an older version of Blender, so the animation speed's a little bit off. Can I change the speed? Okay, that's normal speed now. But the reason they look off, a lot of people think it's the animation style. They say, oh, well, it's the limited frames thing. It's making it look glitchy and jittery. And I don't agree. I think it's something else. And I have a pretty good hypothesis, because I've looked at this model more than everyone. So I think I have a pretty good idea on what's wrong. I don't think it's the animation style, because I've seen other games that have, like, been made since, because I made this video like a few years ago about the animation style, and since then I've been seeing more people adopt it. I think it's a pretty cool style. But you'll look at something like Spider-Verse, or I don't know, I can't think of any off the top of my head now, but I think one of the Spider-Man games has a Spider-Verse skin, which is low FPS, and a lot of people say that looks great, but then they look at mine and say it looks off. And then they say, oh, it's the limited style, except no one's saying that about Spider-Man. So it can't be the style. It has to be something else. And I think what it is, it's something harder to pick up on. I think it's the actual shape and the poses. Because my poses aren't very strong, because this was the first time I was ever animating one of these, right? This is the most complicated character I had made so far, so this is like my first attempt. So I probably made some mistakes. I made mistakes with the proportions and the shape of things, and also with the animations themselves. The key poses are not as strong as they could be. And one of the reasons the key poses are not as strong as they could be is because when I try to pose the model in extreme ways, the shoulders will glitch out and stuff. Like, it's a bit hard to pose the model when the underlying topology and weights are all kind of off, right? So the solution I came to was, Gabby needs a new model, with all of these lessons factored in that I learned from this one. Because these are very fundamental issues that you can't adjust. It's very like giving her shoulders, because the model's already textured and weight painted and whatever, it's going to be really hard to go back and do that stuff. So I've made a start on this new model instead. And I think I could probably close this now. We're done looking at Gabby's old one. Let's look at the new model. So let me turn on some of the extra meshes, and I'll show you some of the ways I've tried to counteract those problems so far. Now, this is a work in progress. The model is not done. It's still being made. That's why we're here on stream. I'm just trying to find, because I've got a few different objects. I've got a tail, and the tail's fixed now. It's like anatomically correct. It isn't, you know, poking out of her upper back anymore. So that's something I fixed. Where's her ears? There we go. And I'll put her costume on as well. So this is how the current model's looking, and I'll check chat in just a moment. I just want to finish my little showcase of what I've been working on here. I'll turn on the outlines too, because I've got the outlines, the outer line, and I've got the shader. There's no textures yet, but we'll get to that later. And I've got her headphones. She's got the headphones on the model now, which I was really looking forward to add. I've been wanting to add those for a long time. So they're all gray at the moment, but those are the cat headphones. So those are going to be permanent, because I just love them. I just think they're cool. So that's another thing. I've been able to kind of improve her design by making a new model, and she's going to have the gloves as well permanently on the model. And I might change up the leg armor a little, because she needs some kind of knee pad, which I think I had in the concept art, but I couldn't be bothered to model it, so I'll see if I could get to that as well. So I know it's very low detail, but let me show you the rig, because I've done. I'll have to explain the workflow in a bit, because I've been kind of doing rigging and modeling at the same time, and there's a reason that isn't what I was taught to do. That isn't, I think, what you normally do, but I've been doing it and it's been working pretty well. So I've actually, as I've been modeling, I've been posing, testing out, just using auto weights, so the weight painting isn't perfect, but it gives me an idea on what problems I'll have later. Thanks for the love hearts, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for the emotes. So let me show you some of the poses so far. So you can immediately see there's some improvement, because she actually has shoulders, which is great. You know, she actually has like some muscle to her now. And you can see that this is just one pose, and it looks a lot more, at least in my opinion, I think it looks a lot more natural and more like a drawing, especially with the material. And I've improved the hair as well. I've done a different technique, and the hair's still not finished, of course, but I wanted an idea of the shape, and I think it's a much better shape than it was. And I've changed up her proportions of her head a little, so her ears are a bit bigger and all that. Something that makes a more distinctive silhouette, mainly. That's kind of what I'm looking out for. Let's look at some other poses, because I've made a lot of test poses, and I've tried to bend her in very extreme ways, like doing ridiculous things with the rig to like stress test it. And I'll show you the experiments. So that's the first pose. Where's the rest? There's another one. And I know the weights on this are a bit off. Let me turn off the bones in this view. Like, her hips are kind of a mess with the weight paints. But her shoulders actually kind of can bend without breaking, which is nice. Because the old model, you couldn't really do that. What else I tried some like yoga poses and stuff as well. I did some flips because I want to reanimate her too, because I'm going to have to reanimate her if I have a new model and a new rig, I'm going to have to do new animations, obviously, and that's going to give me an opportunity to make her a bit more acrobatic, which I've been wanting to do for a long time. So I've done an experiment of, well, what would her doing a flip kind of, what pose would I need for that? And I try to kind of make one up. So you can see there are some issues still, like the back of the shoulder I've been having some problems with, because it does look a bit awkward in that corner. But the chest and underneath the arm, I think, looks much better. The legs seem to go much better, and the ankles and stuff. I haven't gone and detailed them much yet. I'm planning to add a bit more detail. I've got some action poses as well. So this is like the Marvel Avengers pose. And again, these poses I couldn't really pull off with the old model because the geometry would kind of break. And her knees couldn't bend this way because they'd been modeled wrong. So now I can do stuff like this, which is pretty cool. There's a lot more. Yeah, I've got now, you anime fans can fill me in on this one. Apparently this pose is like a meme. Like it's like a trope or something. But I don't watch enough anime to understand why. But apparently this folded arms straight ahead pose is supposed to be some kind of meme. So yeah, so I guess I thought I'd give that pose a try and see how it, how do her arms folded look? Like, do they have issues? So far, they work a lot better than the old model. There might be some issues with the elbow, but I think if we add a bit more detail, we might be able to circumvent that. And her, yeah, I like the way that her back, can I rotate the light? So she actually has shoulder blades now, which she didn't have before. And these seem kind of weird to like point out, right? Like having shoulders and shoulder blades and, anatomical features. You might think, well, why is that important? She doesn't actually have muscles. She doesn't actually have bones and cartilage. Why is it important that the model resemble that stuff? And the reason I think, at least this is what I believe now, I think the reason why it's kind of important to get some of those features in is because it makes it look less off and it makes it look more natural. And as a result, it looks more like a drawing. And drawings also kind of follow these rules. Like if you look at an anime, they'll tend to have guiding lines for certain features, like they'll have the collarbone drawn in and stuff. So that's something I've actually got too, actually. You can see that I've actually modeled in... is it the collarbone? I'm pretty sure it's called the collarbone. There might be another name for it though. But I've actually modeled that in because I want the lighting to shade and react to that area. So it's a bit hard to see with the light, but you can see she has an action, like edges on where her collarbone would be. And her old model didn't have that modeled in, but I tried to draw it in with textures, but the lines fell too low and it looks just a bit wrong. So I've got them nice and high up where they should be now. I do have a lot of other poses I just want to like go through real quick. So I've tried some like yoga poses, and I'm sure there's probably some pose test you can animate that you're supposed to do, but I was just thinking, well, what are some fun poses that Gabby in character would do? Because she has to stretch probably, right? Like with how mobile she is, she probably does stretches, and it's like, all right, well, let's animate her doing, well, these aren't animated yet, but let's pose her doing some stretches to see how the model will look. And I've got, this is my favorite one. I love this one. So some of these might end up as animations, but for the most part, I'm just doing this to test how everything is gonna like look. So if I go in and change the topology on an area, I can cycle through these poses to see, like, okay, is there anything really weird that I can't fix with weight paints or something like that? So it's essentially trying to be thoughtful about how I'm modeling it and prepare for the future type stuff. And then I've got this pose as well, because this was fun to do because I can see what it looks like with her arms fully extended up. Now with her old model, when I did that, the arms would like bend and then go up, which looked really weird. Like they would kind of like rubber hoses or something. But in the current model, she actually has joints in her, because her shoulder joints have been placed in a better spot. So her entire upper body will actually move up, which her old model didn't do. And you can actually see the topology angling inwards because the collarbones are going up there. So I'm no anatomy expert. I haven't read a lot of anatomy books. I'm just kind of like trying to get it sort of the best I can, but not go too overboard, obviously. But it's an improvement, I think. So that's kind of, I'm pretty happy with. Now, of course, model isn't done yet. We still got a lot of work to do. She has no face yet. She has no fingers. She's missing a lot. So it's still far from done, but I think, considering this is how it looks like in progress, I'm pretty excited for how it'll look when it's finished and fully integrated. And I feel like it's kind of worthwhile to do, because you know, I don't like being, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, you know, I'm a bit critical on myself, and I know that, and I try not to go too overboard with redoing stuff. But I think in this specific case, because like I said earlier, like one of my goals is to leave a very strong impression. When I post this on Twitter or something, I want people to look at her and go, oh my god, is that like a sprite or a model? Like, I genuinely can't tell. I want that to blow their minds, because those, if I can do that, if I can impress people, you know, that's like better marketing for the game. Because that's one of the biggest problems indies have, is getting people to care. That's actually a huge problem a lot of indies have. It's like, how do I get people to actually care about this thing? And I think one of the ways you can do that is to impress them, leave a strong impression. And I think I've done an all right job with that. I've got a few wish lists on the game. You guys are all here, which is great, but I think I can do better. So I want to push it even more and like blow people's minds. That's what I want to do. And I think, especially with the animations, because one thing I want to have is people not noticing that the animations look off. I want them to watch it, and I want there to be less comments that say the jittery animations, whatever, look a bit strange. Because I'm still going to be using that technique, but I think if I can integrate the technique with a model that's better proportioned, with better key poses, I think that'll mitigate that problem. So I'm going to cut it there with my what's going down. I reckon that's probably the synopsis complete. I'm very sorry I haven't read all the chat messages. I'll have a quick read through. Hey Tim, good to see you. Yeah, I'm hoping to leave a strong impression with it all. Yes, that too. So Stinky Boy here in chat says, considering you'll be looking at her for the entire game, I think that's precisely it. You know, if this was something else, like a traffic cone, I probably wouldn't bother. It'd probably be a bit too, you know, perfectionism to go after something like that. But Gabby is very important. She is the asset. She's kind of the selling point, because it's not that hard to make a parkour game. Like, it's become a lot easier since I started doing this. But Gabby is kind of what makes... I think that's kind of what makes it my game, is that it's got Gabby in it. And yeah, she's basically... It isn't even that the game has to leave an impression. It's that Gabby has to leave an impression. I think that's kind of the way I think of it, is that the gameplay could be anything, but Gabby has to draw them in and wow them. I think if I can do that, people aren't really going to even care what the game is. It's just going to be like, I want to play as that character. And like, if I made this into a combat game or whatever, I think the principle, if you can still draw eyes, I think that's a good idea. And of course, the gameplay helps. Like, I think I've already got gameplay that can draw those eyes in, but it falls short a little bit because of Gabby currently. Because she doesn't look... It's not fully there. But imagine the code I've already written, just with better animations. I think it'll completely change the impression people have. And that's not even changing the code or gameplay. Like, those little things like animations they make a huge difference to how everything feels. So I think in this particular case, it kind of justifies the effort to like redo the model, because this is always on screen. And it's not even it's even off screen too. Because I have to make branding and assets for the Steam page and for the box art. We know it would be really great, because here's a technique I've noticed. And I for my Lexinal bit, I know I've done a lot of explaining, but there's a lot of context I have to catch you guys up on. And I want to show you this collection of tabs. And there's a lot of tabs. But one of the reasons this model, because some of you who are really proficient at modeling, I'm not sure how many of you there are in chat, but if any of you in chat like are experts at 3D modeling, you might look at what I'm doing and you might notice there are a few discrepancies or a few things that don't look right to you. And like, for example, the way I've topologized the chest here, or the abdomen, it's a little funky. There's some weird stuff going on. Why are there tris somewhere? Why are there quads somewhere? Why are the edges flow this way? You know, because I had to do a lot of learning. And one of the reasons that is because I've been going back to the Arc System Works research rabbit hole. And this is a studio I've mentioned in my first videos about Gabby's first model. Except while I was making Gabby's first model, this studio released a bunch of new resources that did not exist when I started making the old model. So unfortunately, they're all in Japanese. But I've been reading them. These are slideshows from the development staff of Guilty Gear Xrd, which is the reference I'm using for the style. Because in my opinion, these guys have like mastered... I have not seen a 3D game with the anime style that looks better than this. And this is the exact style I want. So I've been looking at how they've been doing stuff, and I've been trying to learn their methods. And it's a lot. I had to do a lot of research. It's an overwhelming amount of information, so I'm not going to go through all of it, but I brought this up for a reason. Yeah, so they have an interesting thing they do, these guys. I'm going to see if I can find an example. There's a character from the game that has a specific sprite that I want to use for this example. I'm going to open this image. So this is one of the characters from their game. I think this is from the menu, the character select menu, and you go in and select the character and it shows a sprite of the character. Except that isn't a sprite. That's a 3D model. Which is pretty cool, right? And that's kind of like, how is it that it looks like a sprite, even though it's a 3D model? Well, they have a lot of their little tricks, which I'm trying to do, right? But you'll notice, because you might say, well, Ray, how could you even tell it's a 3D model? And I'll show you how I can tell. And I know this is a very low-res version, but if you look closely at the shoes and the pants, you'll see where the vertices are. You'll see like it's a bit jaggy, and I know it's low res, but you'll actually see that it isn't round like someone drew it. You can actually see where the vertexes are, like the edges. they've just hit it very well, because the reason why this doesn't look completely like a 3D model is because they have hand drawn the face, but the rest of the body is 3D. So the hands, the arms, you can even see it. I know it's very low res, but I've looked at this picture a lot, and I can tell, like, for that little bit of her glove, that I can see where the vertices are, because it's made of polygons. And the anchor, you can kind of tell, you can see the edge loops there too if you look closely. But it's just the face, because the face is kind of what gives it away. So they've just rubbed that out and drawn over it, but the rest of it is 3D. And you know what I thought when I looked at that? Because I have to make a lot of renders of Gabby. Like, if you look at my YouTube channel, every thumbnail has Gabby in it. If you look at my Steam page, Gabby is all over it. If you look at the website, Gabby is all over it. And each of those is a drawing I had to make, which took a long time. I've made probably 50 drawings of Gabby since starting this game. And you can kind of tell too, because as I've been drawing them, I've been getting a little better at drawing her, and her design has sort of changed somewhat through all of the branding materials. And because of that, I then have to go and draw new assets to update the style and the design. And the merch too, like this shirt, I spent like 2 days designing this, to have to draw her in that pose and everything, which you could get on Patreon, by the way, linked in the description. But all that stuff is a lot of work. And it's like, what if I could use the 3D model instead of having to draw it from scratch every time? What if I just had to pose the model and then maybe draw over the face, and that's it? That would save a lot of time, because I do need to make a lot of... Because Gabby is the brand for me, for my game. This isn't true for every game, but in my game, Gabby's pretty important. She needs to be everywhere. And it's a lot quicker if I can just have a model I can screenshot, like in this case, like what these guys did. They just screenshot the model, draw over the face to kind of touch it up, maybe touch up the shading, and that's it. Saves you having to draw it from scratch every time, and then it looks more consistent across everywhere too, because you don't have to worry about proportions and whatever. Like, it's all from the same model. So anyway, I know it's a lot of context before going into it, but I wanted to put all that out there so that people understand what I'm doing, like why I'm doing all this, where my head is. Because this is a lot of work to make a model, but it does solve a lot of my problems. So anyway, sorry, I didn't have... I'll get back to chat, see if there's any questions here. Is Sprite the right words to use? Yes. Sprite, I know a lot of people talk about sprites like retro games, but if you have a 2D character, like if you look at like some of the Dragon Ball fighting, like the 2D ones, or even that studio, I think that studio has a game called Blaze Blue, I think, and that uses sprites, like 2D sprites, but they're very high quality. They're not pixel art. I think that's what you mean. You know, a lot of retro games use pixel art, which are sprites, but you can make it higher res, and they're still sprites, but they just don't look like N64 or Super Nintendo games. Oh, thanks my, is this a new supporter? Thanks so much. Someone mentioned something about the anime look. Sorry, there's been a lot of messages I haven't read. I'm so sorry. I'll try and get to a few of the questions here. And then we'll get into it. Do I still use post-processing for my toon shading in Unreal? I don't think I've ever used post-process for my toon shading in Unreal. I've used a custom shader for that stuff. So that isn't post-processing. I don't plan on using post-processing a lot. I have written a new post-processing shader. It isn't for the toon shader, it's just a bloom effect, because anime has a specific bloom that doesn't come with Unreal, so I had to write my own bloom shader that looks a bit more like I want. It's similar to what Guilty Gear uses, actually. It's like a diffuse bloom shader, so it's a bit old-fashioned, but I think it looks... I like how it looks. Oh yeah, and the face topology. Yeah, so someone mentioned anime face multipology is insane. So we're not going to get to this in this stream. I'm going to start off with something a bit easier. But when we do get to this, I'm going to be like, you look at the topology, and anyone who like has done 3D models before are probably looking at this and going, what the hell is going on? What is this topology? It makes no sense. And it does look a bit weird at first. But I've read all of these slideshows, And all of that is deliberate. There's a specific reason why they have all those stretched polys around the mouth and the tris and quads mixed together. That is all on purpose. And we're not gonna explain and go into that today because that's a big topic. So yeah, I've got a lot of tabs from all the slideshows, and you can see that there's a lot. So we're not gonna get into all that, but we're just gonna take it a step at a time here. So I've been thinking about where to start for the stream because I should get ahead of it, the model. I think I want to look at the hands and maybe the arms. I want to like look at that today. We're just going to focus on that because I should probably set a timer as well because I don't want to go on too long because I'm going to get real tired. So I'm going to set like a 2-hour timer. And all right. Sorry, I didn't mean to hit the intermission screen, my bad. I gotta remember I've changed all my keybinds for OBS, so forgive me. Let me just find all my windows, because I have a window open of reference, and I have another window of chat. So I just gotta get it all arranged in place. Will Gabby get claws? Oh, she might get fingernails, I think. Claws might be a bit tricky. Alright, so, let's get into it, shall we? I'm gonna try and keep an eye on chat, but this is gonna be pretty intensive. I know it's not programming, but it does require lots of focus, so I'm just gonna kind of talk you through what I'm gonna try and do. Now, do keep in mind, all of these techniques I've shown you, this is my first attempt at doing them. I know I tried doing it with the first model, but I didn't have all the information back then, so I've got a lot of new information now that I'm trying to work with. So this is going to be my first attempt at trying to do it all in practice. So one thing I'm looking at here is I should probably turn off the shader. Let me hide some of this, because we don't need all of this visible. I just want to focus on this part first. So this part, the reason I'm doing it all separately is because I want to make like a base humanoid and then model Gabby over that. So, because that way, if other characters come about later, I can just reuse this. So this is just generic female humanoid at the moment. And then we're going to add Gabby over the top. But one thing all humanoids will have in common, of course, is an arm and a hand. Now, I do have on my other monitor here, I've got some models from Arc System Works that I just found online, and they have like the sort of topology showing. So I've got that open on my other screen to look at how they do it, and they do some weird stuff. But I'm trying to kind of use that as a guide, because there's a lot about their techniques I still don't understand, but I do know that it gives the result that I want. So I'm gonna try. It does break a lot of the rules that I know of in terms of how to model stuff. It like goes against all of the rules I was familiar with, but it gives you the result. So I'm gonna put a bit of half into my sensibility and half into what they do, even if I don't fully get it. Because I'm sure as I continue on, it'll probably start making sense, hopefully. Because the thing I'm looking at the moment is how many edge loops of the arm there is. Now, I've got one of their models open on my other screen, and they have a lot more detail on the arms, and I don't want to go too over the top with detail. I want to see if I can actually do a bit less than them, just because it'll be a bit easier. But they do have some specific, the way that they do the edges, the way they kind of flow around the model, like little details. Because one of the things as well is that I don't know if there's, like, with the collarbone, for instance, because then there's the texturing, which I haven't even gone into yet, but the texturing is a very specific technique, and it relies on model detail. I'm not going to go into the technique because we'll be here for another hour if I have to explain the texturing technique. That's something we'll probably get to in another stream. But if they have something like a collarbone, they don't draw it on like you would think. What they do instead is that they add like UV seams at these points and then like offset the texture, and then they add black lines over the texture so that it creates this sort of sharp line. And that probably doesn't make any sense if you don't know much about UV mapping, but don't worry, that's something we'll get to later. But what I'm trying to say is, if something looks like it can be textured in, it probably could if you were doing the model normally. But we're doing it their way, which means those rules don't really apply. Like, we're doing it by a different rule set. So if something here looks a bit unconventional and you have like the urge to like go, oh, Ray, you should do it this way or whatever, I'm more than happy to accept advice, but I would rather you read all those presentations first, because if there's a lot of specific little things that you kind of that can constitute their rulebook, and that's the rulebook I'm following, which isn't necessarily what you would normally do. So for things like the elbow, because they have a thing where they model in like this, they have like a bulge coming out that's all made of triangles, and they like have it so that you can put 2 texture seams there, which isn't how you would normally do it, but because of the style that we're doing, that's sort of the way they have to. So I'm just looking at how they've done it, and I'm not so confident in how well we can kind of emulate it at all. Because we also have to keep in mind that it bends, but I'm going to do my best to kind of follow their example, but using some of my own sensibility too. So it looks like they have a thing, I don't know if I can draw over this. They have a thing where they have edges that flow like that. And for some reason it just made a keyframe. I don't know why it did that. I just want to make sure there's no keyframes on the timeline. But yeah, they do something kind of weird there, but we're going to try and emulate it, because I want to see how it looks, because then we'll see if we need, because if we do end up needing more edges like that on the arm, I want to have those in place before I do the hand, because it'll flow into the hand. So I want to make sure I get this the way I want first, and then we'll do the hand. Now the shoulder is still not exactly the way I want, but I'd spend too long finicking around with that. So I'm gonna just focus on the elbow for the moment. Have I tried using squash and stretch? Yes, I have. But I think like I mentioned earlier, it's not necessarily a matter, because I do have squash and stretch, but a lot of the problems with the old model are just fundamental issues with the model shape and the topology. So yeah, it's funny that, because probably most of you probably didn't notice that there was squash and stretch, but there is, and it probably doesn't come through as well because the model isn't that well made. So that's probably why squash and stretch won't help fix it, because the problems run a lot deeper than that. So, because they have this part, and this little edge here is kind of for deforming so that it can like bend. And then they seem to, oh wait, hold on. Let me undo that. They seem to do this thing where they have edges that kind of flow into this vert. So I might just draw some edges there just to kind of give myself a guide on like how, because then they take some of this and like bulge it outwards so it has this this look to it. And then they do something even wackier on the other side. They have a lot of stretched verts there, but we'll get to that in due time. So I just gotta keep track. So I think this edge this set of edges I want to keep, but I think this I might need to move up a bit, or do I? Yeah, I think I'll move it up a little. Actually, I might start with the front, because the back might be a bit tricky. So let me get rid of that edge. Because I'm gonna do my best to show you. So this is one of their models. This isn't my one. I'm just using it as a reference. But this is what they have going on. So I'm trying to kind of look at that and go, how could I apply that to my model? Not exactly, but kind of similarly, because the way that gives you some shading stuff going on, and they probably have it weight painted a certain way as well, so that the elbow doesn't like bend into itself. It's probably a lot of reasons, but so it looks like they have another set of edges, but then these edges all kind of dissolve. Oh wait, I think it's just this one. Oh, why are you making the model? How long did it take me to... I think I spent maybe like too long explaining why. There's a lot of reasons. Just trust me, bro. There... a lot of reasons. Okay, interesting. I think their model has a few more edges than mine on this front bit, and I'm not sure whether I should follow suit or not. I think I might, because they have like another edge here, but it doesn't go downwards, it kind of goes up into the arm. Okay, because I'm looking at how they've got it, and they use... One thing that mine doesn't do that theirs does, is that they have a few more edges here to create some muscle definition. So they actually have some curves here, which I can't really pull off because I don't have that many edges. So I might add a bit more, but I gotta be careful because I don't want to mess up the edge flow of everything. But their models are kind of interesting because one thing I'll say is that they use like tris and quads, and I was always told to not do that. But these guys will, and there's lots of reasons why. But what I haven't figured out yet is where those are always appropriate. Because they have shading and rigging reasons why that they will have that. So because I haven't gotten up to the texturing part yet, I have to be I'm trying to do it mostly quads and only tris where it's like necessary. Because you can always go and make them tris later. It's quite easy. But to make it tris first and then try and make them quads is a bit harder. So I'm trying to like not go too far outside of what I know, but still trying to follow their techniques, which I like understand mostly, but because of my lack of experience, I probably won't fully understand them until after I've made this model, when I've made it myself and gone, oh, okay, that's why that's done that way. Okay, wait a minute. Let me try that edge again. Because the tricky thing with this is that they have to kind of flow into the shoulders. And I'm just thinking, maybe if I can move these down instead of making more. I'm just curious. Actually, no, I think there does need to be a few more edges. But I just got to make sure that it doesn't mess up the shoulder. Trying to think of where I can put it. Okay, that's not a great spot. I might do here because I know where that goes and I can clean that part up later. Or maybe there's a better way. I'm just going to separate this for the moment because I don't want to mess up what I've got over there. I'll worry about connecting them later. I just want to focus on the forearm only. So I'm just going to separate that out. I should turn off backface culling. Also, is the background music working? I tried to fix it up with having stream background music. Let me know if it's still there. How much easier would it be if technology let you actually make curves and circles in 3D programs rather than a bunch of polygons? And you actually can do that. I have done it a little throughout this model, but it's not so easy making circles. That creates some other challenges too, or curves. You don't get as much control over the edges, but I have done that for the hair, which I have hidden at the moment. But the hair, these are all made of splines. So this is different from the last hair I did where I had modeled it by hand. So this is all splines, but this is very low detail. I'm probably gonna have to go and touch up bits later. But it's a good base. I'm probably gonna, for the hair, I'm gonna have to likely go in and like merge bits of this around, add some ledge loops and shape things. But yeah, I don't know how I would do that for arms. So I'm gonna just do the way I know how for the moment. I'm already kind of pushing the bounds of what I know, of my knowledge. Like, this is all new, so I can only take in so many new things. So I'm just kind of... I've got the techniques sort of memorized. I've, like, read a bunch about them. I've been trying to sort of practice them. And then I'm just sort of gonna go ahead with the way I know, mostly. But if things look a bit jaggy, I do know there are ways to smooth out polygons, but I'm not going to worry too much about that at the moment. My main thing is just having the edges follow the right paths. That's my main priority. Because the edges, where the edges go, where they flow, is important for a few reasons. It's important to get the shape, it's important for the shading, and it's important for the rig. But not in the way you'd normally think for when you're making models. Like there are lots of, because of the cell shader, because there's, I don't want to bring up too many slideshow things here, but one of the reasons that they will use tries a lot, I've noticed, there's texturing reasons why, but one of the other main reasons is that when you add a triangle, like if you add an edge through one of these, like halfway through, and make it a triangle, like 2 tries, it actually changes how the surface normals are. Like it recalculates them slightly. And it doesn't look any different normally, but when you're using the cell shader and you're doing custom normals, with having like having them as tries actually gives you more control, from what I've seen at least, on how the shading can be, like where the shadows go. So that's, I'm looking at what they've got and I can kind of see why they've done it, but I want to do it mostly the normal way. Not all the normal way, but mostly. And then go and worry about that, like do a shading pass, you could call it. But yeah, see, with that extra set of edges, we can now add a bit of like muscle, which I wanted to do. I wanted to make her a bit more muscular in this model, because in her old one, she looks like a twig. Hell, she doesn't have shoulders even. So I wanted to change that. So you can see now, you can start to see if there's a bit more definition going on. But then they do this thing where they make these tries. And then it all kind of like goes like this. This is sort of how they do it. And I'm not so sure about that last little edge, but so that's sort of what they have going on. Except I'm not so sure about that face and that face. Those don't look quite right. Oh, no, I guess that's what they do. But no, there's something still a bit off. Maybe it's I think it's just, I have my vertices arranged a bit. I think they have theirs a bit more like that. So it creates, it's a bit hard to, can I turn on matte cap? I'll turn on like the shinier material because it's a little easier to see. You can start to see that it's, I don't know if you guys can see, but it creates like this kind of bulge here. I can see that what they're doing there, and that's sort of what it does. It's just a little hard to see. Is there a shinier? I don't want it too shiny. I just want it, that's a bit too shiny. Yeah, it's all right. You can kind of see it creates this, yeah, when you want to look at it with the wireframe, you can see it creates like this sort of dimple there, which I like. Because her arms are going to be visible quite a bit. And there's also probably a rigging reason why they've done it that way, but we'll get to that when we get to that. I'm going to just like move some of these edges around there. So, yeah. So I haven't quite decided yet on how finicky I'm going to be, because sometimes I could go forever on like one vert. So what I'll do for the sake of the stream, I'll try and rush through bits and get it roughly, and then I might go back later if I get extra time. But I'm going to get it like approximately all right, as long as there's no visible problems. And I actually do see that there is Okay, they've got they have some more edge loops along the arm here that I don't have. Like, they have an extra edge loop here that they use to create another crease. So another thing too, the reason why because you might look at it and go, well, Ray, you've already got an arm. Why are you adding more verts? Why are you adding more edges? Part of the reason is because I'm looking at the reference here, and what they do with their edges is that they actually push some of the edges in a bit to create muscle definition. So I've just added this set of edges, and I'm looking at their reference there, and they seem to take these and like push them in a little. Maybe not that much. They do it a bit more gracefully than me, but they create like this nice shadow, and then it kind of accentuates this lower bit, which I don't know if I'm out of frame or not, so it's a bit hard to demonstrate. But because one thing I'm lacking with mine is that this part, it doesn't feel like, I'm looking at the reference and they have a lot more, they have an exaggerated like bulge there of the muscle, and I don't have that in my one. So I'm trying to kind of emulate that and give it that kind of volume without ruining everything, of course, which is the hard bit. So let me delete that face, because this is probably gonna get kind of messy with the, because this is all new to me. This is like my first attempt at trying to do it this way. But I'm trusting in the techniques, I'm trusting in the process. I might not understand them all, but I know there's probably a reason that they do it a certain way. And it looks, I can't quite tell where, okay, I'll leave that edge alone because that goes over to the other side. Because then they have a few things where yeah, so this needs to come back. Because I'm looking at sort of the ringlets and what direction they go in and what way they bend, because they do bend a certain way. So I want to make sure that's... Because yeah, then they have... Yeah, you can see my edges are not... I'll straighten these a bit. Not like that. Theirs bend in a different direction. Why not use normal map? Because we are doing this. So this is going to be one of those things. So I might not get around to all the questions. But if something looks off to you, there's probably a deliberate reason why it's that way. But I don't have, there's a lot of knowledge I'll have to catch you up to speed on. There's all these slideshows I've been reading. Basically, this doesn't use any normal maps. That's not part of the workflow at all here. And the reason why that is mostly shading reasons, which you might sound a bit weird because normal map is sort of meant to be for shading, right? But when you're doing this kind of non-photorealism style, a lot of this is all model detail because... well, there's a few reasons, but it'll take too long to explain. Basically, read these first, then ask. It took me like a few weeks to read them all, but yeah, I wish I could do normal maps, but that's not part of the workflow. There might be a way to do it with normal maps to get the look, but the way I see it is, I could experiment with that and try it, or I could stick to their proven method that works, that gives me the exact result I want, which is what I'm gonna do. So I'm kind of trying to strictly stick to the Arc System Works workflow, because I don't know, I have not seen anime models look better than from that studio, and they have, you know, now they've published a few more resources into how they do it. So I'm gonna like stick to those, and if they say no normal maps, then no normal maps it is, because that gives me the exact result that I want, and I trust them. But yeah, I think part of the reason that they will avoid textures, because a lot of it is not textures. They only use textures for like colors from memory. And I've done a bit of their texturing workflow before. And basically, because textures are fixed resolution, like they're not vectored, like they're rastered, they have a thing where they like their models to look very high, like very sharp when you get close to them, which I would appreciate having if I'm going to be using these for marketing materials. I want it so that I can pose the character really close to the camera and not have like visible texture filtering or whatever. And their technique happens to account for that. Because they do this thing where, yeah, all of the detail is, it's all modeled. And then they use like that UV technique for the textures, and the textures only have colors mainly and line work. But because of that method, even though they're not using normal maps, they can get all the detail they need, which isn't really that much. And then they can, there's this thing they do. Sorry, I'm just trying to look at how they've done their arm. Because they have this, they do this thing around the wrist that's a bit strange that I don't quite get. Where they have like the tendon. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do that on my one. Let me think for a sec. What was I was saying something. Yeah, so basically it makes it so that when you zoom into the model close, it's still very sharp. Even though the textures are very low res. But that's because of the technique, the specific texturing, which we're not going to get into today. Like, that's a whole other thing. The thing is, though, is that a lot of the parts of the process kind of work in tandem. So a lot of the modeling probably won't make sense until we get to the texturing. So you'll just have to stick around for the ride, because we'll get to that bit eventually. So I'm hoping that when we do get to texturing, you guys watching now, you'll like see me doing the texturing bit, and then you'll see like, oh, that's why he put that edge there. Like, it all makes sense later. It's a bit hard to explain now, but this is just, thought I'd give you guys some updates on what I'm working on. Now I'm just, because I gotta be careful here, because they'll do these things where they'll split out edges with tries and make a few extra polygons, and then they'll close them again to create these contours, which I don't want to go too heavy with, because I don't understand all of the issues that can happen with that. But I do want to make sure that I'm starting the hand off with a fixed amount of like edge loops to worry about. So I want to, if there's anything that's going to affect the amount of vertices on the edge of the wrist, I'm going to try and like account for that. It's just really weird how they've done it here with the wrist. Because they have this, I don't know if I can, I don't know. They do it in a weird way. I'm not sure if I'll try and emulate that. Yes. I think I might leave that bit out. But let's look at I'm going to look at the back of the wrist now and see if I can get that bit of the elbow. Because my elbow is a bit softer. They have a very sharp elbow. And now that I've got a few more edges there, I think that should be a bit easier to pull off. Because they kind of create with tries. They do this thing where they like, they create like a, it's kind of like on this side, but they do it on the opposite side a little differently. But, oh, that's a bit tricky. Because it gives you this cool shape with the elbow. And let me like change the shading on this a bit. Shade smooth. Oh, that doesn't look the way I want. Okay, I'll ignore that for the moment. But it gives you this really cool elbow shape that I'm trying to have on my one. Because then it all kind of gets sucked into this pivot point, and I know, yeah, my edges are not great. But they have like this sort of, this is a very low poly basic version, but this is sort of what they have going on. Except I know the shading is a bit strange at the moment, but we'll get to that. But it creates like this nice defined elbow, which will affect lots of things. It'll affect the rig, it'll affect the way that the cell shader will shade that elbow, because it'd be cool if we had like a kind of like a contoured shadows going across that. I reckon that'll kind of help sell the look really well. But they have a lot, I don't know, they have a lot more polygons here than me for some reason. Okay, they have like another edge loop. They have like another set of polys here. But I don't have that, so I gotta be careful. I just want to see where that comes out. Alright, that comes a bit further along. That's alright. Yeah, Gabby gets glow up, that's right. I wish I could have like a second view on the stream of like the model zoomed out, but I don't know how to do that, so you'll get a nice close-up of her elbow for the time being. So let me like just recalculate those normals. Now, later on, there's going to be a lot of custom normal work that will have to get done. I'm not going to go too much into detail on that yet, because that's something I'll probably do after the model is, like, there. Like, with all the detail and stuff. Especially the face is going to be quite tricky. But the custom... And this is another reason why the old model was kind of flawed, is because I did do custom normal editing for it. And for those who don't know what that is, it's like... You saw how before that this elbow was sharp, and then I've just made it smooth? So that isn't changing the polygons, that's just changing the normals. And the normals basically control the lighting. And with cell shading, to get it to look not glitchy, you have to like kind of... you have to be able to control the normals to make the shadows go where you want. Like, for example, if I have the cell shader on, that's how the shadows look. But if I go and go shade flat... Oh, where's You see how the shadows change? The polygons haven't changed at all. Polygons are exactly the same, but the shadows have now completely changed. But if and you can actually, that's kind of cool. You can see that little bit of topology. It leaves this nice streak here. That's kind of part of the reason why I did that there, was to get that look. But if I go back again and go shade smooth, that's just changing the surface normals. Now imagine, now this is a very simple version of it obviously, but you can actually go in and control exactly how those all work. But it depends on the topology. So part of the reason why, with Arc System Works at least, which is the workflow I'm following, part of the reason why their topology looks weird is because they are doing it for the shader. So they have a topology and edges in a certain arrangement so that it shades a certain way, so that they can go in and customize each vertice and the way the lighting will go. Which is, like, when I was starting this model, I thought I would, like, I had this idea of, oh, I'll just download, like, Vroid Studio or something and, like, try and make one. The reason that wouldn't work, because I did look into it, but the Vroid look, it just kind of looks like a VR chat avatar. It doesn't really look convincing, like it's drawn. So I kind of put that down pretty quick. And the topology is also really weird. Not in this way. This is also weird, but it's weird for a different reason with Vroid. Because they have this thing where the eyes are not modeled in, they're just like sprites or something. It's something weird like that. And I was like, okay, well that's not really gonna work for my purposes. So it was interesting to look into though. I'm sure it's great for like VR chat, but not for my purposes at least. But with I don't think the VR chat, oh sorry, I keep getting Vroid and VR chat mixed up. The Vroid models, which that's like an anime character software basically, but they kind of go for that more the Genshin Impact type look, where it's a bit more high detail and it's more texture reliant, which isn't the look I'm going for. I'm going for more of a, you know, mid-2000s flat shaded anime look. So because of that, their topology and techniques and texturing will be completely different. Like in the Vroid models, they have like, the hair is like over textured, like there's way too much detail on like the hair strands, like it's all been painted. But if you go and watch like an actual anime, that's not how it looks. So I was a bit disappointed with it, because it's like, I don't want it to look like that. I just want it to be flat colors. But luckily, you know, Arc System Works has that exact look. So it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to do it their way, because that gives me what I want. Now, so I'm looking at the rest of their elbow, and they have this thing where they have like an edge that comes around, like, oh, I can't, why isn't it letting me draw? It's not letting me draw for some reason. But they have like edges that come around like that. Like their edge flow is a little different, and I'm not sure if I can pull that off with my set of edges. I think I might leave that alone. I think I'll just have one last look at the hand, and because I really want to get to the hand, because I can kind of I think I can do most of the hand separate, where it doesn't affect the body topology. But a lot of this for the arm and the legs, maybe not so much the legs, but for this part, it's probably going to require a bit more trial and error for me to get it the right way. But the shading, if I look at it just in the diffuse view, the shading is a lot better. I like how it kind of, you can see like the shadows kind of coming into a little pinch there and having that kind of flow. I do like that. I might move this in a little more. See how, maybe out a little more. Or no, I think these two I want to move out a bit. Get it that nice kind of look. But yeah, I might come back to that. I'm going to need to study that more. I'm just gonna, because they also bend the arms a bit more than I have them, at least. So I'll try and get some of that in, but I won't be able to take it too far. But they have it so that the arms kind of bend a little to this side. Which I guess kind of makes sense, because I think the bone is shaped like that. It isn't straight, it's like slightly curved. And I think the forearm is slightly curved too, actually. So they have it where I'll turn on like proportional editing. They've got that coming forward a bit on their model, like that. And it looks, yeah, they've got a lot more edge loops than I do on the wrist, so I might add a few more and smooth those. And then I can create that kind of bend, because I'm just trying to kind of get that same nice shape. And yeah, they also have a thing where this part bulges out a little like that. It's kind of like your muscle would. And then this part kind of bends. I'll move this edge down a little, because that all kind of bends back this way. Kind of like that. Which, it's not perfect, yes, but it's getting better. What's the model for? It's for Project Feline, the indie game, which you can wishlist on Steam. It's a like third person, it's basically like, it's like an anime, but it's a parkour game. Need I say more? Basically, imagine if Titanfall 2 was a third person platformer instead. And it was also in an anime. That's kind of the vibe. I'm also, because I'm looking at this from like the front view, and they also kind of have a bit more curvature in the arms here, where I don't know if I can, it's going to let me annotate, but it kind of goes like that. And then like that. So I'm trying to kind of get that shape too. Except theirs, because of their edge loops, they have this thing where the polygons like fold into each other there, which I'm not going to try and do yet. That's going to take a bit of fine-tuning. So I'm just going to get the basic shape going. But this needs to come down a little. This edge does look a bit awkward though. I don't know if I can smooth that out a little. There we go. I just gotta change which... Yeah, okay, there we go. That's a bit nicer. I just gotta like sort of bend, because there's like this... I don't know which axis this is. I think it's like the Y, where like they will bend, like some of these will like rotate like that a bit. Not all of them, but some of them. And that kind of affects like the form of everything. So some of, yeah, I have it a little bit off here, but if I bring that in a bit, I think that's sort of rotated that way. Because it sort of goes like that way and then like that way. It isn't straight, because that'll look off. It's sort of like bent a little. But not that extreme. I've exaggerated it a little bit. Thanks, Dr. Ragdolls. I appreciate that, man. Well, yeah, like the more wish list, the better, because I didn't know this, but Steam has an algorithm, apparently. Like, it has its own algorithm, which is kind of cool, because I was expecting to not have one and have to, like, use the YouTube algorithm. So that's kind of cool. The thing is, though, is that it, like, there's markers. I don't know all of them, but there's certain indicators it'll look out for whether to promote your game, and one of them is wishlist. There's another one, which I can't remember. I don't know. I think it's reviews, but that doesn't matter until the game launches. I think it's some rule where it's like you need to have over 10 reviews after like the first week, and then it like will feature it more. Which isn't a lot. I was a little surprised. I have to think there's got to be more than 10, because 10 is not a lot. So that was kind of surprising, but I don't know. I read this on like some game dev subreddit, so I'm not sure how true it is, but yeah, Steam has like a bunch of algorithm stuff that I have barely looked into, but I do know that wishlist is one of the important ones. So if we can get like, I don't know how many you need. I think you need like more than 7,000, which we've done, thankfully, which is great. But I'm curious how high we can get it, because the higher, the more likely it is to get featured when it launches, which I don't know when that'll be. I don't want to promise a date yet, because look, I got a lot to do still. I don't want to like announce and then disappoint people. I don't want to do that. So I'm not, it'll be done when it's done. But if we have that wishlist page up, because I really think I should have set it up ages ago. I wish I set it up years ago, but I didn't for some reason. But it's there now. But the higher we can get it, the better. That means the launch might actually work. And it like increases the odds of it not being a commercial failure, basically, which would be nice. That would be nice. Okay, I have probably made as much progress I can on the wrist before I have to like do more topology work on it. So I'm kind of happy with the shape mostly. Actually, I just want to move these a little. That's it. I just want to move these, and then I'll move to the hand, because I'm probably going to I could spend a long time trying to fix this, and I want to be conscious of that. That's probably something I'll have to, because I've got like a few other topology references open on my other screen, because there's like the more traditional modeling techniques, which I'm a bit more familiar with, that I'm trying to kind of use, but then Arc System Works has their own rules. But they don't have a specific slideshow on... Well, they do. They have a talk on joints, like where to put bones and how to topologize joints to bend, but they don't have one specifically about elbows, and the details, like the examples that they do, are very low detail examples. So I do have some basics. Like if you look at my knees, this is how they recommend doing knees, where you have like these sets of edges here and then like a huge gap on this side. But of course their in-game models are a lot more detailed than this. But that's the basic principle. So it's like this, but more detailed. So we'll get to that another time though with the knees. Because I'd like to make it so that there's a little like there's like sort of divots on the sides of the knees so that there's like shadows on them. So they actually look like knees, because they don't really at the moment. They kind of just look... Yeah, because knees are meant to have like a little oval shape under them, like that. But mine don't have that. But we'll get to that a bit later. I want to do the hand, because I understand hands. That's something I'm a bit better at. So I'm gonna separate this onto its own part so I don't mess up anything here, and we're gonna try and getting some fingers and stuff in there. So I think if I press... Oh, I forgot which button it was. There's a button that splits these. I forgot which keybind. I think it's a V? Yes. Cool. So I'm just gonna like take this away. And this is probably how a lot of this will go, because this is sort of what I did last time, except I didn't really understand it all too well back then. But what I found that's kind of helpful is like taking the bits on their own and doing them up, and then connecting them like around later, because that way if I like have edge loop stuff going on, it doesn't ruin the rest of this. And then later on you can then figure out how it will all connect together. I think I like that way because it lets me just focus on a thing at a time. So we're gonna just do the hand. Now, I've tried to shape it as best I can to like resemble a hand, but of course there's a lot missing. We'll start off with separating the fingers from the palm. So we'll make another cut there. Because the fingers, I'm gonna make one finger, and then we're gonna like copy paste it 4 times and then weld it to the palm. And as for the thumb, I might take that off too for the moment and break it down. So that's the thing, because I know like, I don't know how much of this has made sense so far, but one thing that helps this get less overwhelming is breaking things down. So maybe what I should have done, maybe I should have cut this in half and like done each side separately, but we'll move on. I could spend forever on that, so we'll move on to the hand. Now with the hand, this is very rough. I'm just trying to think of where I should start. I think I might start with the fingers, and then I'll do the palm, and then we'll do the thumb. So I'm going to start with one of the fingers. I'm not sure whether because that's a nice guide for how big things should be, but I think I might create like it's a separate object to start. I might make like a cylinder or something. And I'll leave that just as a size reference, this part of the hand, but I think if we start off with a shape, we might have an easier time. So if I go in and create a cylinder. There we go. Oh, that's a big one. I don't want it too detailed. How big? I would say that's maybe 8 centimeters, maybe 10. This made a massive cylinder. Oh no, the menu went away. I wanted to change the, I moved it and I clicked off and then it got rid of that little menu at the bottom. I was trying to change the amount of, there we go, the amount of vertices. I don't want 30, maybe 8. That might be a good number. I hope there's a way to change this afterwards, because I don't want to have to add more. Let me just look at my reference model and count the amount of vertices. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, 8 should be fine. All right. Well, that's a big finger. So I might down the radius of, oh, not like that. I just want to down the radius to like half. And maybe make it a bit shorter. Now, I'm looking at my reference, and they do this thing where... Okay, that kind of makes sense. I think I understand what they've done. Let's try and... I'm going to try and use their technique. So they have a few edge loops. They've got one... It looks... I'm trying to think where that is. They have like an edge loop in between... Okay, I tell you what, we'll create... I'm trying to think how many. 1, 2. We'll create 2. But they have them spaced a bit unusually. Oh, wait. Why is the finger wide? No. Let me fix that. Yeah, there we go. Turn on wireframe. So they have that, but then they have this other thing where they do like what I've done at the knee, which is kind of interesting. So you can see with the knee, I have it so that on the side that bends, there's like a fan of tries, and then on the other side, it's a big fat thing. They have the exact same thing on the fingers, so we're gonna do that. So it's like it like fans outwards, kind of, and then they have one in the middle here, and then the tip is kind of its own separate bit, but we'll get to at the end. But I think I should bevel these out. I'll start with this side. I like that side. So it kind of bevels out like this. But then this goes away. Oh, sorry. I don't know how easy that is to see. And then that gets combined into that. And the reason they do it this way, so this is a bit I'm a bit more familiar with because I've practiced this a little bit. This is so that the fingers will bend, but that the underside of the finger doesn't clip into itself. So that's why they do that. Oh, pressing F9 will give you that menu? Cool. Thanks. I didn't know that. But then they have this thing where... Yeah, so then they like have that mirrored down there, and they have another set of tries here. They seem to open this back up. But then this is a bit more spread out at the bottom half. So that's how their fingers look. That's kind of interesting. I guess it makes it so the fingers can kind of bend both ways a little, but it has a clear bias towards one side. So let's... I think these do need to be spread out a little. Like that. Cool. Alright, that was actually a bit easier than I thought. So that's how they do one of their joints. And let's shade this smooth so it looks a bit more like a finger. And we'll get rid of this face because we won't need those. So this looks a bit weird probably because it's like, you know, it looks a bit strange, but because this bit I know a lot, I'm a lot more knowledgeable in this part than the elbows. What this will basically do is that when we rig it, the finger will bend, and when the finger bends, these edges, like our finger, like this joint, right? When we bend it, those will get spread out as the finger bends, and then these at the bottom will contract inwards. So it's actually kind of funny because it's symmetrical, but one of them is like modeled so that it's like there's a bias towards which way it'll bend, which way it deforms. Because when you bend it, the verts will look like that, and it'll bend it like this will be like downwards like that. That's how it'll look. So that's kind of interesting, because that's not the way I would think to do it, but that's how they've done it, and it's pretty cool. So we'll do that again on this other side, because it's fun. Or maybe we can... I don't want to rely too much on symmetry, but I mean, it looks the exact same, so we'll see if we can do some symmetry on it. Symmetry. Or no, it's not called symmetry in Blender, it's called mirror. Yep. But it's mirroring the wrong way. How do I set an offset? Because it's mirrored, but it's like doing it weird. There is a way to move it, I just don't remember which way. Oh no, there we go, it's the axis, that's right. There we go. So now we have 2 joints. And then, I've applied that now, we can like shape this. I won't shape it yet, because we still got to do the fingertips. The fingertips, I have not done fingertips this way before, but they have a particular... I'll show you the reference. So this is the reference I'm looking at. We've got these bits, we got those joints, but they do this thing where the fingernail is modeled in, which is really cool. Because they do some texturing there to accentuate the fingernails. I'm just gonna, we'll try and do that. That's pretty cool, actually. It'll make the fingers look less like gloves. Gabby does wear gloves, but they're fingerless gloves, so you'll be able to see her fingers still. So I'm gonna look at it from the top view. Or, no, I'll do it from the side, because I'll get the basic shapes, and then we'll try and get that fingernail part in. So they do this thing where it seems to like bend backwards like that with the edges. And then they extrude this out a bit. And it's the fingertip that's a bit tricky. Because it merges into the fingernail. And I know this is very curvy and exaggerated. Don't worry, we'll get around to that. But they've done the fingernail very smart, because it's like merged, it's not a separate object or anything. It's like merged into it, which is pretty neat. Okay, so let me just pay attention. So they've got the middle edge going in. And they let me like get it so that it closes off, because they have this thing where it like... I think they... Oh. I think that's how they do it. Yeah, they seem to like close it off with quads from the looks of it. But then they have a few extra edges on it. It actually starting to look a little bit like a fingernail already. But they... Oh, I gotta pay. Okay, so they actually have this kind of separated, I think, because they have it. Okay, it's a bit weird. I don't know how to describe it, but they have like a triangle here where this kind of goes up and that goes around, and then that sort of like it kind of comes down separately from those. So we'll try and get some of that going on. What we might be able to do though, because I'm reading some of the chat here. I want to get like the fingernail shape, and once we have that in, we'll see if we can make it pointier than the Guilty Gear characters to give her some sharper claws. We'll give that a try once we have the geometry. And we'll see how, because I actually don't know how it'll look, because I haven't drawn Gabby with... I haven't really drawn her fingernails that much, but I'm curious on how that would look. It's just, yeah, they do a tricky thing on the corners. I just gotta like watch what I'm doing, because they seem... I think this needs to come up. Like, they flatten this a little bit here. They make this a bit more square-shaped. And then those aren't merged with the side. I was doing it merged with the side, but theirs isn't like that from the looks of it. That comes up like that. What I might do actually as well is I'll add another symmetry, but along this axis, so that, because that's gonna be mirrored basically. So we'll do it that way. There we go. So now I can do both sides simultaneously. So they have it sort of go in like that a bit. And then that corresponds with the top of the fingernail. But then they have like they have an edge like that and there from the looks of it. I think I got it. I hope I got it close. No, I haven't done it right. I have an extra try that they don't have there. So I just got to think. Maybe those do connect. Because I'm just looking at this, and they have a thing where it looks like a tri, but that actually does make a full quad. So that goes like that, and then that... Oh, okay, so it like flows in like that. Okay. Oh no, that's obvious. I didn't see it before. No, it's literally... Okay, that's easy. I did it a bit whack. It's literally, it's like just boxed off by a cube there. So I don't need this face. So let me merge that. It doesn't look the same because the proportions are not there, but that's... Oh, because then they have like this edge going forward a bit. I think that's the difference, is that that's sort of pushed forward. Yeah, yeah. I think that's the same edge flow. And then they have an extra set of edges for the tip of the fingernail to make it look sharper. So they have another edge here. They make that a tri. Oh, but I just want to move that to the middle. Almost had it. There we go. But then this, they have like a... Oh, I don't know if I can... I need to move this out. Then they kind of like merge it at the end there. But you start to see it's looking a bit like a fingernail now. It's a bit of a... It's very puffy. So we'll need to flatten it a little. And these edges stick out a bit more. Oh no, wait a minute. They have this come out a bit more actually. That's a quad, and then the tri will get... Oh. I think that's... Oh no, it's not exactly. That's how they do theirs. Interesting. Oh, but that doesn't quite line up with what I've got, does it? I wonder if there's a way I can... Maybe if I merge those. Oh, but then I've got this. Okay. How have they done... They've done this interesting thing with the tip of the nail where the edges are very densely packed, which that affects the shading. I know that'll affect the shading later. It'll basically make it like a hard edge so that the cell shader will be very sharp. So I'm gonna like shrink these a little and flatten this surface a little bit. Gonna delete that face because I don't have this right yet. Okay, no, that is correct. But I think they have an extra edge loop somewhere, which I don't have. But yeah, this is a bit too square as well. So I need to bring those just a bit inwards more. But then these are very spread out. So they like push that a bit further out. There we go. You start to see it's looking a bit like a fingernail. Now, I'm not happy with this face, so we're going to remove that for the moment. I'll use a bit of the proportional editing to kind of That's a bit better. Looks a bit more delicate. But I think once we get this bit, that'll be the finger, and then we can like use that for the other fingers. So that's actually a lot easier than I was thinking. I just got to figure out how they connect the finger, because they also have, I don't know what this bit's called under, like on this side. That's like, it's the bit that if you cut, it like really hurts. I don't know what it's called. But it's the bit that like the skin will peel from. I don't know if I get that sometimes. It's really irritating. They have that modeled in, which is really cool because if you can get those edges flowing that way, it'll make the cell shader look very nice. So I'm just paying attention to, they've got like a whole ring of edges. So I'll try and like, they like push this back a bit, but they have like that whole bit done there, which is really, really, really cool. So it like comes out like this. Well, not exactly. That's a bit, I gotta widen that a little bit. Oh. Oh, that's going inside the finger. I don't want that. Yeah, so that kind of comes out. And then that connects like this. It's just this bit I'm not so sure how they do, because they create like another set of edges. Rough. Oh, do they? Okay, no, I think oh no, they do. Okay, I just had it a bit off. Oh. I was misled slightly. Or was I? No, I think I can do a better edge flow there. Because they have it where it goes and turns into this, but it can all be divided into 4s. Okay, yeah, no, I've done one too many. I think I can merge that. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I had one too many. It's just because their models are all triangulated, which makes it a bit harder to look at. But I know there's a reason why it's triangulated, because mine will probably be once we're finished, when it gets to the shading, because having like 2 tries, as I said earlier, having 2 tries and a quad changes up the normals slightly, and they have like some tries throughout most of the model and then quads in certain places. But I want to do that after I've done the model. I want to have that as a separate step, because that's going to be more of a shading problem, if anything, than a modeling thing. But they do have this weird bit. I don't know how well I can explain it, but they do have this weird thing going on where they have an extra triangle protruding out. Because they have this, I'm just looking at the reference, they have like another triangle coming out of this edge, which I think I'll just close that off in my one. There's probably a reason they've got that, but I think this should be fine. It's a little simpler than their version, but it's all right. That's pretty cool. I just want to like adjust the width of, because yeah, now we can go and like adjust this a little. I want to make it a bit wider, the nail. But that is the first time I've ever modeled a fingernail. So that's pretty cool. And I think, yeah, with the way we've done this, I can extrude this edge and make it sharper. So I'll try that in just a second. I think I just want to like adjust the placement of these verts a little, because I think this bottom half, this row needs to come out a little further that way and come down a little bit to make it look, because your finger, I'm looking at mine head on and it's a bit fatter at the bottom than at the top. And I'm not sure... I think we might be able to have that stick out a bit more on this side. Will the... Yeah, the... So here's the thing with quads and tries. No, well... So Centripetal asked, will I re-topologize this? I suppose I will, but not the traditional way. Not in the way you think. It's going to be a bit different. But the... what was I talking? Yeah, so... Yes, the model does get re-triangulated in the engine. That's correct. However, the rule that I've heard, maybe some of you have heard this too, is like to always use quads all the time. That was the first kind of modeling rule I heard of. And I understand it mostly, like in most cases I understand why. It's mainly a workflow thing. There's also the graphics card thing that can happen. It's not so common, I don't think. Computers are not that stupid. Because I've heard the argument before where it's like, if your edge flow is bad and if you just don't... Like if you're completely just bulldoze through it and don't think about it, yeah, you're more likely to run into this problem where it's like the graphics card can crash because it doesn't know how to divide it up. Because, I don't know, there's like a processor reason why it has to be able to triangulate it in the graphics card to render it. Like it might show as a quad, but in the background it's really a triangle because that's the simplest way it can comprehend it. But if you have an object that is so like an irregularly, like if it's like, I don't know, 27 sides or something ridiculous, the computer is going to have to do more work to divide it into triangles to comprehend it. Because if it has to do more than 3 sides, it's a bit more work. That might not be the case so much because I heard this advice years ago, so I don't know how common that is nowadays with graphics cards, but that's kind of makes sense, I guess. I did see, though, one time, this was a long time ago, but I did see someone have that where one of their models had like an irregular thing and it just rendered as black. Like the graphics card just couldn't render it. So there's that issue. I don't think I'm going to have that problem, though, because I'm not stupid. But the other thing is workflow. One reason people like them being neatly quads is if they have like an edge modifier, like being able to select all the loops in a ring like this. If the edge flow is bad, then you can't do that. Like this edge, this doesn't go all the way around, but this is also deliberate. But if you didn't do this on purpose, and if you just did it like this, and you want to be able to select the full ring, you then have to go and manually click them. And if you have a high poly model, that's a lot of things to click by hand. So a lot of people, I think they like to stick to quads because it makes the workflow easier for adding modifiers, which is sensible too. However, we're doing it the Arc System Works way. I don't know how they make these models. I've just seen the models and I've read the presentations. They don't really go into that stuff, but they seem to think that triangles, because of the specific look and the texturing implications and the cell shading implications, because of all of those things, it seems like they don't mind having that be a problem, because the benefit of what the tries will give them outweighs it. And look, I don't work there. I've just researched them a bunch. I do not claim to know how they... There might be some other reason that I haven't figured out, but from what I've managed to gather, there's also like skinning reasons too, which that's the common reason I see people talk about using tries. Like when you go search like, I don't know, Game Dev Reddit or something like that or something, you'll see like people in like asking questions of, is it okay if I use tries on the knees or something? Like I've got here, right? This is something I used to wonder. Now, if you stick to the everything must be quads rule, then this violates the rule, obviously. But this also has an advantage because it makes skinning easier. So it means I can't select the edge loop fully, like I can't select the entire knee, but I kind of don't need to. And if I did make these all quads, the weight painting would be a pain because it's going to deform and it'll bend weirdly. So in this case, I use tries. Now, Arc System Works does the same. That's why they do that with the elbow and stuff, and the fingers. That's why they do that there too. Except they also have like 10 other reasons why they use tries for different things. Like skinning is one reason. Then there's shading. Then there's texture. Like there's a lot, and I'm not going to get into all of that now because it's a lot to take in. So what I'm gonna do, because I don't understand all of their uses yet. I understand some of them, like this. I understand why the tries are done that way in this specific case. But this elbow I was trying to do before, I don't fully get it. I probably will once I work more on it, but I don't understand it completely yet because I haven't made it far enough to... I don't have... Because these guys have like 15 years experience. They're way better than me. And I'm kind of just trying to let go off their shoulders because they know more about this than I do, and I'm just trying to follow their example. But I do not understand it as well as them, obviously. I hope to, by the time this is finished, this model. I hope to understand it more. Obviously, though, slideshows can only take you so far. So I'm going to be learning a lot of things as I make this model. This finger, though, is probably the one part of this model that I fully understand. Like, I understand why all of these are done this way. The face is going to be very complicated when we get to... I know this is very low poly, but they do a lot of weird witchcraft on the face that I don't really get. But it all gives you the look, so I know that it's right because it gives you the outcome. Even though it kind of breaks all the rules that I know, it gives you the outcome, so I'm doing it. So I guess that's one of the examples where it's like, you know when people say in like music or something, you have to like know the rules to break them? So I'm following the examples of people who obviously know the rules very well and have deliberately broken them to achieve a look. Now, I don't know the rules as well as them, but I know the look I want. So I'm kind of just following the roadmap they've laid out and breaking the rules that they broke. But also, I don't understand all of their rule breaking yet. So I'm hoping to kind of pick up on that. So when it comes to it being triangulated in the engine anyway, yes, that's true, but also they triangulate it in, like, let me open that. This is their model. Okay, so this one in this window, this is not my model. This is, this one is, this one isn't. This is Arc System Works model. So you can see, this is what my face is going to probably look similar to this. You can see that there's a lot of weird witchcraft going on. This, you show this to, like, I don't know, an average 3D modeler, they'd probably look at this and go, what the hell? Like, what's going on? But I read the talk on this and know that there's a deliberate reason they do it that way. Even though it looks crazy. It looks really messy and weird. Look at the forehead. Like, look how weird that looks. Look at the edge flow. It looks crazy to us because we don't get it. But I read the talk on these guys and they seem to have a reason to do all that. I don't understand them all, but I know some of it. Like for the mouth, quick example, this looks crazy. The reason they do it that way is so that they can animate the mouth to be massive without deforming the cheeks too much. Because that is an issue I've had with my model, and I'm hoping to avoid that by kind of following the same example with the mouth topology here. So you can make the mouth massive like anime characters do, and it won't, like, you won't have this wrinkling on the cheeks, which is what my model has that at the moment. And wrinkling's bad because the cell shader goes all wacky because the shadows all get glitchy, and that breaks the illusion. So that's just one of many examples. I could go into more, but I will be here forever if I go through every example. But this is a very unconventional way. So if you're trying to do 3D models normally, I would not follow what I'm doing. Only follow this if you plan to make anime models. This is like it's like different rules to the normal way. And I'm hoping when I finish this, I'm taking notes on most of this stuff, so I do plan on making this into a devlog where I kind of explain some of it. So look out for that. That'll be a while still because I have to finish the model first, obviously, but it's what I did the first time. It was like the tip of the iceberg. There was so much I didn't know then. So this is some of it, because I didn't put any thought into my topology for the first model at all. I didn't put any thought into it. And as a result, it came to bite me later. Because I didn't really think about it, I had all those skinning problems, and I had the texturing problems, and I had animation problems. And those all, the players they won't be able to explain the problem, but they can tell that there's something not right. And that's what I was talking about at the beginning of the stream, with it breaks the illusion a bit. So that's why, yeah. So that's something to keep in mind with some of this stuff, is that it's all very minor, and it's very kind of weird and obscure, but it creates an end result, and the end result is important. It creates the illusion that this is a sprite. Except I'll say this again, except this only applies to like this style. If you try and do some of these techniques, like you probably wouldn't want to do an elbow like this for a realistic game or something or anything else. But because of the specific texturing workflow and everything else, yeah. So so just trust me on it. I don't have time to explain it all today, sadly, but I hope to get around to each bit as we go through the streams and make more progress. But it's one of the reasons this has taken me a while as well, because I started working on this 4 weeks ago, and a lot of that was research, like just reading, studying, before I even touched the Blender, because it's witchcraft, like it's actual witchcraft. But I kind of get it, and if I can take what I've learned and apply it, I think we'll get a great model. Not great in the sense of like a sensible model that is like follows the rules of 3D modeling, but a model that works for the style. It gives us the outcome we want. That's kind of my main thing. Also, I totally forgot, sorry. I was gonna test something with the nail. Let's try that out. Someone suggested making this into a claw. I don't know how it'll look, but let's try lengthening her nail. See how that looks. I don't want to make it too long, because I don't want her to hurt herself when she's flipping and dipping. But that's kind of interesting. It does... I think we'll have to like move, because it does look a bit strange. I think these will need to come down a bit if we're going to do it like this. So that's what a sharp nail might look like. Although I'm not so sure about that bottom bit. I think we might need... I'm not sure. We need... oh, no, that's not what I wanted. I wanted to add like an edge loop there. I don't know. I get the feeling that might be a bit cumbersome later with shading, but we'll leave it at that. And I might just move that in a little bit. Or actually, wait, because we're just going to try this out. Make it into like we'll make it a bit more, give it a bit more volume. And we'll taper it sort of at the top. So this is just trying out what a claw might look like. Well, like a claw-shaped fingernail, I suppose. I'm not so sure about the tip. Maybe if I did it like that. Yeah, I think those... I need to bring them a bit closer. I think... So this is going to be one of those instances where I use a try. And also there's a edge in there's a face in the middle there, which I don't want. Get rid of that. Because that if I have like an extra face there, I get a bit more control over the shape. Pretty cool. I don't know if I'm not sure how big I'll make it. I can make it a little bigger. I don't know, what do you guys think of the sharper fingernails? Well, yeah, well we can't... I think having full accurate, like anatomically accurate cat claws is going to look a bit strange. Because she is half cat, she's not full cat. Full cats would have something. So I'm trying to do something that's like a mix between a fingernail and a claw. That's kind of what I think would look... That's what I think would look good on her, at least. It's just like a fingernail now, I guess. Because I don't want to go too crazy. Just a little. Just something that's like kind of interesting, but not like, what is that on her finger type thing. Cool, I think I might leave it at that. We'll see how this looks with the rest of the fingers, and because it might, if I look at it next to the other fingers, I might want to adjust it maybe. So we'll see. And we'll have to scale. I know these look very weird. Well, that's actually not so bad. I think I like that. I might adjust like how thick the fingernails are per finger. Because yeah, now we get into like the... Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Just trying to look at my own fingers. I might apply scale to all these. And we'll add like little modifiers to each one. So I think the scale for the ring finger, because some are a bit thicker than the others, but I'm just gonna guess how like a proportional difference. So I think we'll make that 0.9. This might be too much, but we'll see. I'm just gonna scale them. I know the ring finger and the index finger are like the same size. Actually, the ring finger is a little longer than the index, I think. I don't know how close they need to be either. They look about equal distance apart. I reckon they need to be... I want to try and like... should I try and calculate them to be exactly even? No, I don't think that'll matter. But these will need to come down. And that will need to go there. But they look a little... I don't know if they're too far apart. They look a little spacious. I do want to adjust the nail on this one to just be a bit smaller. To look a bit more like it, because a pinky finger, the nail's thinner, like it's a different shape. Oh, no, it's not quite it. It's like... Yeah, except I know it's got a big hole in the middle. We'll fix that. And then I think for this one, I want to move this up a little bit. Oh. Yeah, because I've noticed with these edges, because they're kind of like the, I don't know, like this area, like the skin, so I want to like add a bit more cushion to the smaller fingers, because I've noticed my own fingers they have a bit more cushioning around them. Oh, that might be, that's a tricky spot. Oh. Yeah, because my pinky finger has quite a bit. Ring finger could do a bit more. It's just... Oh, no, not like that. Just like moving these in a little. And then the other two are fine, I think. Those look alright. The thumb will be interesting, because I'm looking at the reference. The thumb is like topologized completely differently for some reason. It's similar, but it's not quite. Oh no, it kind of is. It's just, it's a bit hard to see from the angle. But it probably will connect a bit strange to the, what's it called? To the palm. So I think we should be able to copy one of these for the thumb. But we have to like modify it a bit. Actually, there is one, no, before I go ahead, there is one thing I do want to check, with the fingers. Because I've noticed that there is like a bulge at this bottom bit, and I just want to make sure that it's like, something does look a little bit off. I think, yeah, I knew something looked a little off. The joint, the part where it bends needs to be further up the model. So, I should have done that before I copy pasted them. Now I gotta decide. Yeah, because so this, these edges, or actually the whole finger kind of needs to come back a little bit. Because this part is like that long, which looks a little, you might not be obvious, but if we put it on the hand, it'll look strange. Like where it bends. Because it bends there, and that's, yeah. So I'm wondering if it's quicker to just do this on one of them and then copy paste it again and adjust the nails, or if it's quicker to adjust them on each one. In fact, I might adjust the tips for each one, because then I can move where these joints are and control the length. So yeah, I'll try that out, and if it's too tedious, I'll just copy paste them. But this needs to come there. Pointer and ring is same size? Well, when you have your hand like that, it does look like it, but this is from their slideshows. This is my evidence for how I remember the fact that I actually did research this. I think according to their slideshows, if you measure it from, like, you look at it normally, they look the same size, but if you actually measure it from where the bone starts, which is a bit further down, it's actually, the ring finger is a bit longer. If you measure it from the knuckle. Actually, is it? Let me just double check. Oh, it's close. I remember they had something about the thumb being this. I think it's like the thumb is the same size as the index finger, I think. I don't know. They have a slide about it. I'll see if I can dig it up, actually, because it's an interesting little bit. I think this is in the rigging presentation. They have a whole bit on fingers. On, like, I don't know if this is it. This is more like the rigging, like where to put the bones, which I guess is helpful to look at, because we're going to have to like model this so that it matches where bones should be anyway. But they had like a specific part where they would talk, I don't know if it's the same slide, but they had a part about like the length of each finger. It might have been in the transcripts though. Maybe it's, if you can read Japanese, maybe this is it, but I have to dig up my transcript that's been like translated to English to know which slide it is. I'm pretty sure it's that one though. I'm just skimming through the slideshow to see if there's any other references to the fingers. I don't think there is. I think that's the one. But yeah, basically, that is interesting though, because one mistake I made with my old model is that I put the joints further up, which is a mistake, as they go on to describe. You actually want when you're rigging it, you want the joint on the knuckle. You don't want it on the skin. You want it further down here into the hand. Because when you bend the fingers, the mesh will deform a lot better. Anyway. And then they have so I'll leave that open on my other screen, because that might be handy to glance at a little bit, just to make sure I've got the size correct. I'll hide these for the moment and just focus on one, because I'm not so sure. I'm just looking at the top. I think this needs to come up a bit. Like the shape is a little bit off, I think. I think, yeah, this needs to come angled down a bit like that. And then that needs to kind of come in, I think? No, maybe the other way. Yeah, that needs to come out a little. And then this is a bit of an obtuse angle here. It's got to look a bit smoother. But yeah, this is all a bit too large. Or is it? No, yeah, it's, I think I just need to stretch it that way a bit. So that should come about. I wonder if there's a better way to measure the proportions of this. Although the finger does look a bit fat now, doesn't it? I'm just... it needs to be a little more tapered. That's it. Because it has this nice, like, that shape, which I like, but it needs to, like, taper down. That's why it looks a bit meaty. They look like sausage fingers, don't they? So yeah, I'm looking at my finger and it's like, there's a bit more of an angle. So I think what we could do though is if I take this and use the proportional edit tool, and if I scale, yeah, that's a little better. And the edges of the sides are going to be a bit whack. We'll fix that in a bit though, because I do want it to taper. Oh, do I? Just a little bit. I want it to taper more along this way than that way, if that makes sense. Rexstar Games asks, will I ever do a build for Sage Expo? I don't know what that is. Maybe. I don't know what it is, but it'd be cool. Is it like an event? Is it like PAX or something? Because if it's a physical event, probably not, because those are expensive. But if it's a digital event, maybe. Sonic Amateur Game Expo, right? I don't know. Well, if it's a Sonic game event, maybe, because this is not a Sonic fan game, so I don't know if it would be the appropriate fit. Unless they let you make, like, just put anything there. I don't know. Oh, it's digital? Okay, that's cool. I like digital. I hope it's not paid. Oh, the finger looks a bit fat, but I think it's the width. It's like this way. Oh no, yeah, hold on, let me, this needs to come down a bit like that. Oh, I didn't select all the verts. Oops. And this needs to come a bit lower, I think. Yeah, I'm looking at my reference, and they actually do an interesting thing where these verts actually stick out a bit more like that, which is kind of interesting. Oh, that looks a lot more natural now. Yeah, if I just do that. I'm gonna merge the vertices, of course. Okay, that's much better. But the edges do twist a little at the ends, which is interesting. I want to try and emulate that a little. Because then I'll show you my reference. You see how the edge kind of angles down? That's what I'm kind of trying to get. And oh yeah, no, I see the problem. You see these edges, that they go vertically down, whereas this model goes diagonal, which gives it a more rounded, flat shape, which is what I need to do. So we'll do that. Fingers are well, actually, yeah, fingers are a little complicated, although there is going to be much more complicated parts to this model. So relatively, this isn't so bad. I actually kind of don't want to move on from the fingers because there's going to be lots of challenges, especially for the hips and the face. I'm not looking forward to those bits. I know they got to get done, but it's like, I'm scared. I don't want to do it. I have to though. I don't want to, but I have to. So yeah, the reference, their fingers kind of bulge a bit more out that way. Which mine are a bit strange. I'm gonna have to fix. Let me try that again. I messed up something. I think if I can get them all straightened, I can rotate. Okay, I can't undo that far. If I select these and straight, nope. Yeah, and then angle them like that. That's a bit more like what I want, but I'm gonna have to take some these and bend these back a little bit more. Because now it's too straight. But if we add a bit of downward slope, it'll make it look a bit nicer. So this it has to kind of start falling in. Except proportional editing is now. Oh, there we go. Oh, proportional editing doesn't work if I double tap G. That's interesting. Okay, I'll do this. I'll do this carefully. Because the edge needs to kind of slope. I'll try and annotate. It needs to kind of slope down a little. This is going outwards. Before it was going straight down, which isn't good. Now it's like close, but not quite. So there's just a lot of edges. But okay, I should be able, if I'm smart, I'll be able to, because I don't want to proportional edit everything. I just want to proportional edit the bottom half. And bring it and slope the whole. Oh no, there is. Okay, no, I have a solution. I think I might. If I select these and rotate them that way, and then bring these down, maybe that'll get me the look. Yeah, that's a bit nicer. Just needs a bit of touching up. Because some of the bits look a bit sticky-outy. Like with this, should that stick out or should it? I think that should go in a bit. That should come in. Why not sculpting? Because of the workflow. Arc systems don't do sculpting, and also you need really high polygons to do sculpting, and we are not going to go through retopology hell. But yeah, because I think that studio, they do it all box modeled like this. So I'm going to do it the same. I just want to fix the verts from clipping into each other. Would be nice. Oh, is that gonna let me connect them? Oh, wait, is that even the right? Oh no. Oh, okay, they do that weird merge thing where you get them close enough. Okay, I think that's just a modifier thing. But I can't seem to get it where I want, so I'll just leave it there for now. I think if we apply the modifier, it should merge them at the middle. But that shape is a lot better. I'm liking that. Looks a bit more like a finger. The fingernail, though, looks a little shrunken along the up and down axis. Or the fingertip, I should say, looks stubbed off. So I want to... Yeah, it looks a little like her finger's been chopped off there. So I want to bring these a bit forward. I think it could be a little longer. Use proportional edit, stretch it a little. But this, I think, there's a bit too much of a gap. I think if we do it like that, because, yeah, then I can make the net, it does look a little squashed. But if I bring the whole thing a bit closer to the... that's better. Because if you look at your real finger, that crease is right below the... At least for mine, it's right below the fingernail. It's actually maybe a little closer even. I think that could actually be a bit closer. Yeah. That looks alright. Okay. I will apply the modifier so that we get the welded vertices. IRL hands have 20 bones? Yes. Luckily, we are not going to have 20 bones. No, thank goodness. That would just be... That would be difficult. Okay, I just want to apply the scale, and then we'll copy those out again, scale them around. The palm is going to be kind of... I'm not sure how we're going to approach that. Oh, I remember now. With the fingers length. There was something that just popped into my memory. They have a slide about the finger length. It wasn't the one I showed. They have another one. And I don't remember what the diagram looked like, but they actually have a method of like knowing how long the fingers should be. I don't think it was in the rigging talk though. It might have been in the modeling talk. Let me just go fish for it because it's quite interesting. They have this little rule of thumb that they use. I think it might be in the modeling talk. There's like 3 of them. There's like a modeling talk, a bone, they have a talk about bones, just bones. Not even rigging, not even weight painting, just bone placement. And then they have a talk about animation. I just want to have a quick look if they talk about, because I do remember there was something where they had like a graph of the fingers. And there was like a thing about like, how long they should be based on this, like, it was a really easy rule, I just can't remember what it was, but it was really clever. I might not be in this talk, but while we're here, I'll show you this little thing about the triangles I was talking about before. Here. So the reason a lot of their models have triangles in them a lot is this a lot of the time. It's because when you place edges and stuff, it'll affect how the shadow behaves. So that's just a little tidbit there. But we'll get to the... I know it's in here somewhere. They have a little thing about finger. It's okay, it's got to be in this talk. They had like a visual diagram. I just can't for the life of me remember what slide it was on, but it was genius. Or maybe I imagined it. Was it even real? I don't know anymore, because I'm not seeing it. It's in. I hope it's in. Okay, maybe I imagined it, but there was something about like using the fingernails as like to judge how long the fingers should be. And I'm looking at my fingernails, and I don't know what slide it's on. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I found this somewhere else, but I remember now. It's that the ring finger and the index finger should be a fingernail shorter than the middle finger, and that the pinky finger should be 2 fingernails shorter than the index finger. I think that's what it was. So I'm gonna try and do that. So this is actually too long. So I need to it's gotta be like... Because I'm looking at my finger and I'm looking at where everything lines up. So the top of the fingernail... Okay, that's too short. The top of the fingernail of that finger has to reach the bottom of the fingernail. Oh, why? What is going on? Okay. Let's look at it from the... Can I look at it from the top? So you see... That's pretty good, actually. It should line up there. Can I like hide? I just want to hide the behind it. So what it should be is that's where the finger should go. That's where that one, and then the pinky finger should come up to there. That's the rule anyway. So we'll do that, and it might look off. Hopefully it won't, but if it does, I guess we'll see what happens. But I'm looking at my own fingernails, and that lines up. So that should be the rule then. Should be something like that, anyway. So if we... I'm gonna move them very close together, just so I got my measurements right. And if it's wrong, then it might be that I've the fingers might be the wrong proportion, which could be the case. Okay, I know this looks really weird, but I think because they also kind of start further back, that could play into why. So I'll try and like make sure that the starting point, because the fingers don't all start in a straight line. They curve. So I'll try and get that in too. Because yeah, the middle finger is not as recessed as the others. Oh, sorry, I had chat paused. Yeah, don't look at the tab count of my Chrome. Just don't worry about it. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's all gonna come in handy at some point. Okay, so that does not look right. That's the fingernails coming to the right spot, but the fingers themselves look really off. It's probably the width. So let's even that. I'm gonna change the width back to just 1. Oh, that kind of looks off too. Interesting. Maybe that rule was complete rubbish. Let me look at where the rest. Okay, I think I'm starting to see where the problem is now. I think it's the... I'm looking at the joints and where those line up. What I will do, I'll just copy, because these are like the same, basically. Except this comes down a little bit more. I think maybe I have them pointing up. Yeah, I think one of the issues is that I have them flexed up a little too much, which does look a bit... It looks off. That kind of ruins the look a little bit. And I could probably... I just want to look at this and look at... I'm going to have my hand over the screen. I think I might have over-shrunk the nails a bit. They do look a bit too stubby when I see it in context. Yeah, the nails are a little... I think they do need to be a bit longer. And there's a bit too much of that at the end. It fattens up a little too much. So okay, now I know. Luckily, those are very small adjustments. I just want to make sure I get that right before I move on. And I could also, I think I could probably lose this edge loop. That doesn't seem to be doing much there. Does that still, yeah, that still looks all right. But that finger, yeah, I think it needs to, it needs to curve up a bit less. And it needs to be a bit longer, because it looks a little off. Oh. I don't know where that slide though was, because I remember they had like this visual thing of like where the fingernails line up. I just don't remember for the life of me where I heard that now. I swore it was on one of those slideshows, but I couldn't find it. It's still a bit curvy. I might run a smooth vertices on some of those. That's a bit nicer. It does look a bit more sausage shaped now, though. It might be. I could be able. I think it's a scaling thing, probably. Okay, I'm liking that a lot more. That's much better. All right, I'm happy with that. I just gotta keep an eye on the nail. I think. Okay, maybe because I'm looking at the distance between mine. At least this is for my nail, at least. I'm looking at the distance between that and then where it bends, and oh, it's just a, okay, I just gotta move it in a little, and then it's fine. Oh, symmetry's off. Oh yeah, because I combined it. All right, well that's, it's not symmetrical now. It's all right, I can just use the mirror modifier again. Yeah, so those edges do stick out a bit. Oh. I just want to flatten those. Yes, okay, there we go. Then I'll add mirror. Apply. Cool. And I know that there's a way, because it'd be really handy if I could change the origin to the end of the finger, because that would make scaling them easier. I just don't remember how to do it. I know that there is a way to do it, because I don't like the origin being in the middle. Oh yeah, no, so I think I have to use the 3D cursor. So if I select those edges and then go, oh, I don't know, oh, it's in here somewhere. There's some keybind. I haven't had to do this in a while, but there's a thing where you can move the 3D cursor and then you can set that as the origin. I just don't remember where it is. I forgot which one. I know it's in here somewhere. Oh, maybe it's only a keyboard shortcut. Oh, here we go. Shift S, selection to cursor to selection, I think. Cursor to selected. Ah, there we go. And then I can go object, set origin, 3D cursor. There we go. So now if I scale it, it scales it from the bottom, which is handy. Oh, get it? Handy. Ah, got him. All right, let's try this again. I think I'm pretty happy with this now. I'm just gonna eyeball it with the scale tool this time instead of punching in numbers. So that needs to come like a... Oh no, I know why it looks off now. Because when I scale the fingers, the fingernails get bigger too. That's why it looked weird. Okay, no, okay. Because there was something about it and I was like, something looks really off. And I think it's fine for like, yeah, because all my fingernails are the same length. But when I scale it like this, it changes them. Oh, okay, I didn't notice that before. That's why it was looking a bit strange. Because I'm like, why do her fingers look stubby? And it sounds obvious now that I say it, but it... Okay. Is there a quick way to do it? I don't know. Maybe there is. Maybe there isn't. It's... I'm looking at my reference too, and I can tell they have done more than just scale it. They've done it where they've like changed the proportions of each finger, but I don't know if we're going to go that far. Can I like have it so that they're like scaled, but they don't look like they're scaled? Because I can tell that they're scaled and it's bothering me. It just looks like the same finger, which it is. But when I look at my reference, they look like natural... I don't know. It's... Here's the reference. Because those are obviously not just scaled. They've actually changed the edges on each one slightly to be like correct, like proportionally, which I haven't done. And I'm wondering if that's worthwhile. We'll do the best we can with scaling, because that's going to take a while to do it that way. We could try using the nail and proportional. I'll give that a shot, but I'm not... we'll see. How do I reset? Oh. Oops. I want to just clear scale. I forgot how to do that. Alt S? Yes, there we go. Whoa, that's huge. I'll just like copy it from here. Okay, we'll try. Yeah, maybe, I guess that would have to be it, hopefully, just proportional editing. Because, yeah, the actual... I'm just trying to look at my fingers. Like, the gaps in between get... They kind of don't... They aren't uniform. Like, they kind of stay consistent. But the top kind of, I don't know, we'll try our best. Because that comes out about there. Okay, that looks a bit nicer, actually. And then that, actually that goes way, that's supposed to go way back, I think, like here. It has to reach that ridge, there we go. I just don't know if I should go more or less. Because the, I wish I could show you my hand, but you guys, then I can't see it. But I'm looking at where the creases are and where they line up. And I think I can see where it needs to, okay, I think I get it. I need to bring this down even more. Because that should line up there, and that should it? Wait, hold on. I've almost got it. That should come up just above. Okay, that's kind of where it should come up, but I know that I think I need to then take it from here and scale it up this way. There we go. Yeah, because I'm looking at where the folds all line up compared to the next finger, and I've got it kind of there now. Actually, I think it's just this finger. I just need to change that a little. I think, yeah, I just need to bring... I think it's just this. I just need to shift that up a little. And then I think that's, yeah. That is at least how my hand kind of is measured, which should be good enough as a reference. And when I look, if I pretend the palm is there, it seems kind of all right. So, all right, I think let's try doing something with the palm. I'm not going to try and weld these on yet, but I want to get like a shape going for the palm. Like it's a bit better than what I have now, at least. So before I do that though, let's move the fingers into, because these are actually all of them are too small. So we need to scale these up to fit what I've modeled in. There we go. Now we can delete this. So I want to, I'll do the thumb too while we're there. And then I'll try something a bit off the palm, and then I might call it for today, because I don't want to go on too long. Because yeah, there's bits of like the arm I'm going to have to like research a bit more on, but fingers I'm liking those. How do I select by linked? There was some select linked and then delete. There we go. Cool. All right. Well, I'm going to copy one of these for the thumb. Now, one thing I've noticed, they don't explain this in the talk, but I have noticed that all of their models have their hands posed this way. That's not how I did my ones at first, but I think there's probably a reason that they have, because it's a bit of an awkward shape for the hand, isn't it? But I have to think that there's some deliberate reason why they recommend that, so we're gonna do that too. The actual thumb topology looks, I think we just need to like fatten it up and then that's it, from the looks of it. So yeah, they have their hand posed like this. And I kind of can appreciate it because it actually makes modeling the fingers very easy because I don't have to like, because with my old one, I had the hands like slightly bent in my model, and that was such a nightmare to like model and to correct because it wasn't aligned very easily. Like this is easy because it's all aligned facing the x-axis. That's great. I'm glad I did it this way because yeah, like the way I used to do it was terrible. So let me pay attention because it looks like they have it so that because the thumb joint kind of comes down a bit, doesn't it? Kind of like that. And then the thumb, it doesn't taper off that delicately. Although before I continue, I'll like symmetrize this so that it's a bit easier for me to, because I want to change it, but I took off that modifier, so I'll put that back on. And I want to fatten up, make it a bit less delicate. So I want to like bring, oh, I can't see. I'll have to do it in perspective mode then. Because I want to like, oh, not like that. I want to bring the whole thing a bit down and widen it. Kind of like that, and then bring it a bit out. And I want the nail to not be at, like, just come out a bit more. Looks a bit more like a thumb, doesn't it? Hopefully. Hopefully it does. And I'm not sure... It looks like they've also modeled in a slight bend as well, so I might try and get something like that going. Because they've got it where this part of the thumb is like juts out a bit, and then this sort of recesses in. Oh, I can kind of see why now. Because I guess yeah, my thumb has a bit of that bulge too, actually. Fingers not as much. That's a bit, yeah. Wait a sec. There's a I'm trying to flip it so I can work on the vertices from this side, because I've got them on that side. If I just change the scale on one of these axes to oh no, that's not that one. There we go. Now I can edit the other side. Because I want to just adjust, and I'll hide this. I'm going to adjust that a bit. Because one thing I'm trying to think about too is the bone placement, because I read ahead a bit with the presentations, and they have this one about bone placement, and I'm trying to line up the verts to where the bones are probably going to go for the thumb, because there's a specific thing where you want the bones closer to the bottom, so I want this set of edges to kind of not be halfway, but a bit lower. And that's so that the fingers bend better on either side. Yeah, it's a little, okay, it's a bit messy. I wonder if I can just smooth those out a bit. Okay, no, that kind of ruins it. All right, that's probably fine. Although, no, there's one more bit. I just want to like have that. It doesn't, because when I look at it, the outline, it needs there needs to be a bit less variation. It's got to like bulge out a bit at the root of that thumb there. So I want to make sure I get that sort of roundness to that tip. So I think these verts just need to, because mine doesn't really recess in that much there. That's nice. See how it has that nice curve? That's what I'm talking about. All right, that's probably fine. Let's bring the body back. Oh, no, where's the... There's another one. Where's Gabby's body? Ah, there we go. So now I can get rid of the thumb there. All right. We'll get... It's probably going to be a bit of work to like get the palm topologized to fit the fingers, but let's just get the shape going for now. So you can start to... You can see that there's a bit of... something's, you know, it doesn't quite line up fully. So I just want to like get it in the rough position, maybe some edges like flowing around, and then I might call it there. Thumb has one joint. Yes, actually let me check, because I think, because I'm looking at the reference and they have this. Oh, they have that joint further up. Yeah, they still have it for this part, but they have that further up, so I'll move that. Thanks for pointing that out. Because they still use it. I'm looking at the thing and they've still got the joints in place there, but yeah, they have them up. Let me see how far up they should be. About there. And then this kind of gets absorbed into the palm from the looks of it. So I'm just going to leave those there for the moment, because that's probably going to be the palm. I'm going to have to do some topology to like bring it into... I don't know about these top set of verts, but I'll leave them there just for now. But what's probably going to happen is the palm is going to connect like here at this set of edges, not at this one, but I want to leave them there just in case. But yeah, let's see if that bend is actually in a good spot. Maybe I'll move the bend up just a smidge. Yeah, that looks a bit nicer. Okay. Yeah, that's a bit nicer now. So yeah, just ignore the top bit. That's probably going to get reworked. But let's just get something going so that when I come back to this, I will have like a starting point. Oh. Okay, I'm just gonna look for on the top down for the moment. So I'm just going to move these to kind of reach roughly where the fingers would go. I'm just like trying to also imagine where I'm going to add more things for the knuckles, because I think the knuckle line should be about here. Ah, I've got that. Okay, I'll move that over. Because that's kind of where this whole, like where that fold is, where the knuckles are, that's probably going to be what these are. So I'm just kind of trying to get a feel for where those should be sitting. Like those are looking all right. There's probably gonna... Oh, okay, I'm looking at their hand, and they have this interesting thing that they do where they seem to like take an edge. I don't know if I can annotate this, but they like draw an edge like that. Oh, it won't. They like have something like that going on. They have the edges go up that way, which is curious. I guess the real hand does that. Oh yeah, I can see. Interesting. So they actually kind of have it where the edge flow goes up into that finger. So I won't be able to get all the detail today, but I want to maybe get a starting point for that going on, because mine just goes across, which isn't really how a real hand works. So I'm gonna like separate. Oh, I want to separate these. and like take this off, because that's interesting. Let me get rid of that. Oh, okay, that took out quite a bit. Because the face kind of it becomes the gap of where it goes into there and then goes around into the finger. That's how theirs goes, at least, which is really interesting. So, okay. Give me a moment. This is going to look a bit messy, but I think I kind of get what they're doing. And then that I'll separate this, because that will kind of go up. So I'll just do this side first. It'll be a bit easier. So that's, I don't know if you can kind of see what I mean there, but that's, with this studio, that's how, with my reference at least, that's how they like seem to do their hands. They have like one set of edges going up like this. And it looks like they have that kind of going through the middle, and then they have that kind of going up to between the fingers. Which, now that I look at it, yeah, that's where my crease, the creases on my hand follow that same shape. So that should hopefully, because I don't think Gabby like has palms like the old model. I don't think she actually has like palms. Like they're just kind of flat. Like they're really not great. So it'd be nice if there was like some detail or like, you know, because I want to do some cool animations. Like I don't have her hands animated in her current ones, but I find when I draw that I do spend a lot of time thinking about where I'm posing the hands. And if I'm going to be using this model for like branding images and stuff, like promo images, it would be nice to be able to create some cool expressive poses with the hands, and also for the in-game animations too. And if the hands are like, you know, resemble real hands, that should be a bit easier. So I'm not sure how they get it to, oh no, okay, I see. So they then have another set of, yeah, so they connect it like this, and then they have some other set of, like another edge sort of going through there, but I don't have enough edges to close that gap yet. So we'll come around to the other side and see if I can connect this back up. Because I think that should kind of come there, I think. Oh! Sometimes I selected some edges on the wrong side there. Okay, so that might not work on the top, but I gotta think about how I can... Maybe I'll start from down there, because I don't have a lot of polygons yet, so maybe it won't all line up just yet, but I think I can probably get it to. Okay, that could probably end up lining up with this part of the fingers later. So I'm not gonna join them all yet, I'm just kind of roughing in where I want things to line up. And then later on I go and fix it. But I want that edge. I like that. Might just space these out a bit. And I might just push those up. Because also, yeah, I can create... because there is like a tiny little like a bulge coming out there that I could probably get now with that edge where it is, which is nice. And then that kind of needs to be a bit flatter. Oh, well, yeah, I know the knuckles are kind of ridiculous at the moment. It looks a bit swollen, doesn't it? Let's move that. That's a bit nicer. So as for how these will all connect, I will not worry about that at the moment. I just want to get like the palm to kind of resolve itself, and then we'll make room for the fingers. Although, oh, okay, I'm just paying attention. Because this, I'm not sure how that's gonna, oh, it looks like they've got another edge loop there, which I'll probably need anyway. So that looks like it connects this way. As for this part, I'm just gonna take that out for the moment. Oh, actually, wait, what if I do this? There we go. So I know this isn't perfect yet, but I'm just kind of like in my brain, like working out where I'm gonna be adding texture seams, where the bones are gonna be, that type of stuff. So hopefully a lot of this weird magic will like pay off when we get to those parts. Like, these edge loops are going to pay off big time for the rigging. I can tell you that now. Because that was something I really wish I'd thought about more with my first model. Because I kind of just went, oh, this looks like more poly's good, right? And it's like, oh no, not quite. I kind of made a lot of errors for that first attempt. I think I want to connect those. I want this to come up there, because I'm probably going to have like some more edge loops coming through there later on, but I want to just get this first one, and I want to rub out, can I rub out those annotations? How do I get rid of those? I don't use this tool a lot. Oh, here we go. Hey, I just don't want those there anymore. I think, yeah, that could probably connect then. Let's try that. Cool. It's just this edge. I'm not sure how that's going to resolve yet. Oh, okay. No, I'm looking at their reference. Their edge doesn't even come up here. They actually just pinch it shut there. Okay, that's interesting. I'll probably do that for the meantime then, which I don't like, because they with my reference, they do a lot of things where they like pinch stuff tight with tries, which I don't like doing a lot, because sometimes it creates issues, but we'll just do that for now, just to resolve this thread. And I shouldn't create issues later, but if it does, then at least I'll know why. So I reckon that'll probably serve fine for the moment. And I'll add, because we'll need it, we'll need some edge loop there to line up with the finger, and probably something on the top. But I want to make sure I know how this all resolves before I go adding too many more edge loops. So I know that would probably come shut there. That can probably get filled there. Now this is where it gets, because that goes into the wrist, so I got to be careful with that. This face is a bit tricky, because that's kind of where the thumb is going to come out from, and I just got to think about how I want to punch that hole, because then they seem to have this interesting thing here where they have, I don't know if you can see, but they've got these kind of going around in a circle. But you can see that it's a bit weird because I got like some tries here and then there. So I have to think that's just to get the shape. I don't know if those also have some kind of shading purpose or not. So I want to be a bit careful, but I think that, I don't know. I don't, because the thing is, using triangles kind of deform a bit weird. I found at least. So that's why I'm being a bit extra cautious with tries around the palm, because if you're squeezing the palm like that, for instance, and if there's tries in the wrong spots, it can kind of act up and be a bit of a pain. So I'm trying to be conscious of that. But they've done it here, and this is a rigged model. And if they got away with it, then maybe it's fine if they were able to do it. So what I might do, I'll just get some verts going for where the thumb should connect, and I'm gonna worry about how it'll connect here in a bit. I just want to focus on like how can I get the thumb to come back up here? So making some verts that correspond with what's on the thumb, just to kind of figure things out where it'll all go. So that will go there, that goes there. I'm not gonna hard connect them yet, but I'm just trying to like put verts in positions where I think they're gonna connect. And then once I build it all, I can see, and then I can go, all right, do I want to weld those together or not? That's sort of my thought process. Subdivide the part on triangles to make which part? Sorry, I was reading Lucas's message saying you should divide the part on the triangles to make it more flexible. I'm not sure which part you mean. Do you mean this triangle? Because that's the only one I've got in here at the moment. Open some Guilty Gear Strive model and look at hands topology and bind pose. Oh yeah, so this is not from Strive. I think this is. Oh, I forgot which. There's like a few Guilty Gear games, isn't there? I think this isn't the latest one. This is from like almost 10 years ago. I think. What? Rev something. I think that's what this model's from. And I'm just kind of using it as a guide because I didn't have this last time. And it's actually quite handy to look at to study. I've just been like studying this like mad, trying to figure out how they do stuff. I can't use this in the game, obviously, because this isn't my model here, but this is really interesting to look at. Yeah, I'm looking at this part. They don't go very heavy with the detail, which is interesting. Like, they really do stretch those, which I can kind of see why, because the more verts you put in there, that's the more weight painting you have to do and more things that can go wrong. So I do notice that when they do, I picked up some patterns, like with the mouth, where if they have parts that are very bendy, they kind of just don't put a lot of polygons in, which is interesting. And I understand now, because when I did my model, I didn't really pay attention to that, and I just kind of went too overboard with the quads everywhere, and that created lots of problems. So it's very interesting. Yeah, it's because another thing as well is like a lot of the thinking I'm doing is just mistakes I made the last model I did, where I didn't I didn't have as good a grasp on some of this stuff back then. So there's a lot that I should write down that I haven't yet, of like things that I noticed that made the model worse from last time. So I don't know, maybe when I get to the devlog, I might go into some of that. I went into some of that at the beginning of the stream, like with the bones and stuff. And oh, hold on. Sorry, I just had a bit of a brain blast. I'm just looking at how these verts connect. And I've done this kind of right, but theirs is all triangulated, which I want to keep it away from triangles for the moment and do that later. But I'm looking at where this, I'm sorry, I don't have this selected. This set of edges, I'm just looking at where that connects, and that seems to connect. Okay, no, I've got that in the right. I just need to move that down there. And then they have this open, but then they have like a whole other set of edge loops. I think it looks like they connect this together like that. That's how they seem to do it. So we'll keep that in there for the moment. I want to see if there's a better way, but we'll do that. And it looks like they have like a ring of, I'm going to finish what I had here. They have like a ring of polygons at the base. The problem is, and this is another thing, we'll get to this later in like next week or something. Because another thing that you might notice about my reference is that this character also has gloves, and those are actually modeled in. So we're going to get to that after I do the rest of the body, because I want to do just the basic body first and then draw the costume over it. But it's going to probably come out of the model like they've done here. And that's not something I did with my old model. I wish I had, because I actually modeled I did the clothes on a completely separate mesh, which is not bad, but I topologized it completely differently, and that's why I had issues where the clothes would clip into her body. So the advantage that Guilty Gear seems to do is that if there's something that's like skin tight, it's just on the body, and that you don't get those sort of skinning problems as a result. But it also means the topology is a mess, because they have like, one of the characters has like a tank top, and they literally brute force cut the vertices to shape into a tank top, and the topology is so weird, but it like works, I guess. Like there's like kind of a bit of a, like the edges all kind of there, and then they all kind of have to merge kind of weirdly to create the tank top shape. But I guess it works because it's like, when you look at it without the wireframe, you can't tell. So there's those things I'm kind of willing to like do, which like I'm very adverse to mess, but that worked. So I have to kind of go, all right, well, if that worked for them, then I'll have to do it that way too. Okay, let me just merge these, because these verts are going to be the same. I think. Or wait, let me just wait. Let me pay attention to the thumb. Okay. Oh. So that, okay, I'm glad I left those polygons in on the thumb, because I see what they're doing. Oh, okay. This will be a bit tricky to explain, because the thing I just have to figure out is how I'm gonna connect it to. I think those vertices I'm gonna need. Okay, here's what I'm gonna like try and connect this back up to the palm, but those bottom set of edges I'm gonna delete. I don't know, will that connect? I don't know, that looks that's a bit awkward, but their edges follow that direction. But I think, oh no, I need to move this vert needs to come further down for that to make sense. That's a bit, okay, that's a bit less obtuse. All right. This side of the thumb is going to be tricky, so I'm not going to worry about that side yet, but the part here where the most of the skin is, I'm just looking at that at the moment. And I think I can probably, yeah. So I'm not too happy about this part in the middle, but I'm just worried about this lower bit, because this closely resembles what they had. So it looks like with those bottom set of, this also looks a bit awkward. Let me just move some of these verts around a bit. So this bottom set of verts, oh, okay, that edge loop is a bit funky there. I just want to select those and delete them, because watch this. We're going to join these. Oh, my join keybind is not working, so I have to join. Oh, I forgot to apply symmetry. Object, join. Okay, and we're going to connect this, because that's where these go, so I'm glad I left those in. At least, wait, let me just double check that, actually. Oh, okay, no, they connect a level down, I think. Yeah, okay, so they do. They actually connect here, which is very interesting. Okay, so we're gonna get some awkward angles, but we won't worry about that yet. And it looks like oh no, that'll work. Okay, I have just the right amount of edge loops. Sensational. Cool. Now, can I like shade smooth? Oh, okay, the normals are completely... Okay, that's better. Normals are a bit off. But they have it so that it connects there. But they like do something... They don't have these verts. They do something else, and I'm just trying to figure it out. It looks like these come up really high. Like those go all the way up, but they also go around. So they do something kind of weird with the way it connects to the thumb, but they still use the basic, like, they still use these verts. I think that's meant to be like where the thumb joint is, so I might move it up just a bit. But it is, okay, this is it's gonna be a bit weird to get used to. Although, yeah, okay. And it looks like they merged that into one there. But yeah, I'm just looking at how they've done it, and it's kind of the glove, which I guess kind of follows the hand, but they kind of like have that, and then that all goes up, which is okay. So that needs to go. It's just a bit strange. I'm just not really... Oh, okay, because they've triangulated, so that's why it makes sense. That's really interesting. Okay, that might be a bit tough for me, because my model is of course not the same, so I have to like contextualize their techniques into my model. I might leave that vert where it was there and just move it. Yeah, I'm not happy with it, but yeah, that's really awkward the way it connects. But I think I want to move around the top parts of this thumb just to like make it look a bit less awkward. But I think I might have to give just my brain a rest, because that is going to be a bit of a tough joint. I might have to like come back to this part of the thumb after more of the palm is in place, maybe. But yeah, it's tricky. But I know that if I follow their example, I'll get the look I want. So yeah, so this isn't how I would think to do it normally, but that's... If it worked for Arc System Works, it'll work for me. That's actually not looking so bad. There's a few... I can see there being some issues with like the weight paints with how I've done these verts, but I think if I like just step away and like come back later, I might be able to like figure it out. Actually, or maybe that's all right. It's just I want to make that a quad. That being a try makes no sense. Can I dissolve edges? Yes. All right. Bit happier with that now. Yeah, because that way, if I bend the thumb inwards, I think I might have to space these out, because it looks like they've done what I've done to the knee, but on this part of the thumb. And I'll show you the knee for reference. So it's very low detail, but it's the same principle of how they've arranged, how the polygons have been arranged. It's been arranged so that when you bend it, it like favors a certain direction, and the back won't clip into itself. So there's actually the same thing going on here with the thumb. It's just a bit different, but it's the same idea, where you've got that joint on one side so that it can bend inwards like a knee would, but then on the other side, yeah, I think it's starting to make sense. It needs to be very spacious here, so that when you bend it like that, the vertices don't like clip in to each other, into the palm. That's the idea. Okay, that's making some sense now, because I was really confused for a second. And then for the, I think I want to like level. I want to like bring this like evened up a bit. That's a bit nicer. Except I reckon that could, yeah, that needs to come across more like that, doesn't it? And so, actually, both of these could do a bit of a... I scale them up that way. I hope that doesn't... it does look a bit weird. I'll leave that alone, but the... Move that in a little. I don't know, might need a bit more work on that later, but that's... It's a start. I do like how it has this kind of like how your skin sort of, it has like that, there's that in there now, which is cool because Gabby's old model didn't have that part on her hand at all. So I'm pretty happy that that exists. In fact, because I have to get going soon, but let's do a comparison. I know it's looking a bit, because it's not connected to the wrist yet, don't worry. I think we could probably move some of this in. It'll be, because these are separate still, so I won't move them yet. But let's compare this to the old model just before we head off and see how the old hand... I want to show you the old hands and the problems that we had with that before I go, because it's, well, it's interesting. So, because I know this probably doesn't look all too spectacular, it just looks like a hand, but let me show you what a bad hand looks like, so you can appreciate this more. So I'm going to hide her skeleton. I'm going to turn off the solid. So this is Gabby's old model, the current in-game model that we're looking at now, which is what I'm replacing. And oh yeah, so this was a hand for the old model, and you can see that it's just like kind of, it's like, I mean, I try to do kind of the bit with the thumb there, like I try to do those edge loops, but it just doesn't, it just looks like, yeah, I don't know, it just doesn't look good. And the amount of edge loops on the thumb is just ridiculous. The fingers are about the same, they're actually kind of similar, but there's no fingernails. And also, this is not like the rigged, this isn't like posed this way. This is how I modeled the hand. I modeled it in that pose, which was stupid. I don't know why I modeled it with the fingers all slightly, like that was so stupid. I don't know why I did that. I think I thought it would look more relaxed or something, but that was such a pain to rig. And, oh, it's embarrassing. So this is what the hand was. And look at the amount of, like, whatever the heck's going on here with all these edge loops. Like, look at that. Isn't that just a bit crazy? Because all the weight painting that is a pain. You don't want edges like this. You want less, because it's actually better to have less. Which I've now learned from putting myself through this. But if you look at Gabby's current hand, I know it's not finished, but the fingers by themselves have much better topology than... Yeah, actually the topology isn't similar at all. I don't know what I was saying. But you see how there's just so many more edge loops that kind of are redundant and don't do anything? Whereas this one, the edge loops are very deliberate. And I know it took me a while to make the fingers, but it'll pay off. Because this was so problematic when I got to rigging and texturing and everything. Doing it with it this way. And I didn't even think about it. That's the dangerous thing. That's the thing that was so crazy, is that I didn't know. I didn't know what kind of problems this would cause. So I just went, oh, okay, let's just edge loops, yay. But no, that's stupid. Don't do that. Oh God, it's just so bad. I don't know. I can't believe I made a video on this. It's so bad. But yeah, this is gonna be so much more fun. Because, yeah, modeling them was a bit tricky. Modeling the palm's going to be a bit tricky, and connecting it to the wrist is going to be tricky. So was this, but the result is going to be better. I know it, because I know what not to do now. and the proportions, like her fingers are kind of, when I look at my hand and that, like they're really like bony, but the palm is like, doesn't really look like it has muscles in it. It kind of just looks like, I don't know. It doesn't look like a palm to me. I can't explain why, but I know it has something to do with the edge flow. This looks a bit more, I know it's still very low detail, but I reckon it looks more like it has muscles underneath. Whereas this is, I don't know, man. I don't know. It just looks like, it looks like someone's first attempt, which it is, so I guess it's not so bad. It could have been much worse, I guess, but... And even like the elbows, because I spent a bit of time on the elbows on this model, so let's compare them. Because this is I'm gonna try and put this into context for the people that have been watching and are a bit confused on certain bits. So if you didn't get this, I'm gonna try and explain some of it. So this is what the old I should put this around. Oh, I should put this the other way around. I'll put the new one on the left. Oh, the old one on the left and the new one on the right. So we'll compare them. Firstly, the pose. Do not model in this pose if you're doing what I'm doing. T-pose is way better. It's just a lot easier. Don't do this A pose. It's, I don't know why I did it that way, because it makes selecting the arms, because it's not aligned across in a straight line, it's just really difficult. So I wish I didn't do that, but I didn't do that this time, so that's an improvement. But this elbow, with the whatever's going on, whatever this is, that was like kind of that was so hard, because when you bend that elbow, that vert in the middle like sticks out really weird, and I never got around to fixing that. So my current elbow is not finished. There's probably still a bit of adjusting I gotta do. There's also the shading, because if you look at it without the wireframe, it doesn't even look like she has an elbow. Like, it just looks flat. Whereas with this new one, I know it's a bit hard to tell, but if you look at where the specular is, you can kind of see that I don't know what those are called, but you can see it like pinching around where the bone is. It's not perfect yet. I could probably still work on it a bit more, but the shadow, it creates like a nice shadow. And when I go and do the materials and the normal editing, I can do a lot with that probably. But with this one, there's no like divot inside, because it kind of goes in a bit, like, and it doesn't actually have an elbow there at all. So it's a bit strange. So and it's those little things. It doesn't sound like a big deal. It sounds very minor, but it's those little things that if you have enough of those little things wrong, it adds up to a model that looks wrong. And it's made of those tiny things. That's why I kind of fixate on those, because I know that they add up. I know if you're looking as an observer, it doesn't seem that obvious, but in like a few weeks' time, when I'm further ahead doing like hopefully up to the materials or something, those things will... It's not that they pay off in the sense that they have some victory, it's just that they don't have a problem. That's kind of most of the stuff that pays off isn't the fact that it has a benefit, it just doesn't have a problem. It's like the absence of a problem, which sounds a bit more depressing, but that's kind of just as good from my experience. The thing I love having is avoiding things going wrong. Which I guess is a win. I guess that is a fix to stop something going wrong. I don't know why I worded it that way. But a lot of it, it just comes down to like, this will prevent an issue. And I guess the added bonus is that it does look a bit nicer. So that's kind of good, I guess. Yeah, you can see it from this angle. You can see that the shading goes up a little into the elbow there. So I know it doesn't look that up, because if I turn the cell shader on, it won't look as obvious because I haven't done the custom normals, but you can see it on this view in the model. And if I go and adjust things, I can work with that at least. Anyway, I'm pretty excited with how those came out, but I do gotta go. But yeah, we're making progress. Let me make sure that that's saved. All right, it looks saved. Cool. Yeah, it's like a bone socket. Someone just wrote that it's like a bone socket. Yeah, pretty much. Tomato Chan says T-pose can break proportions on shoulders. Well, if you're looking at the old model there, that was an A pose, and the shoulders were actually worse. So not always. You just gotta be smart. I think you can avoid having, because the shoulders do come out a lot better. I'll show that real quick, because some of you might not have seen me do this at the beginning, but I'll show you the shoulders, because I'm very proud of the shoulders. I've made a bunch of test poses already. Oops, I gotta find the rig. So that's another thing, and I'll probably explain this next time, but I've gone with sort of like a hybrid rigging and modeling simultaneously approach, and there's a reason for it, but it'll take a while to explain, so I'll explain that next stream maybe. But you can see here, I know that the hands are kind of, because I haven't done the weights on the hands, so just ignore that. But you see how when she has her arms raised like this, I know there's that vert I haven't connected, but at the beginning of the stream these were connected. But you can see that the shoulders actually kind of act like real shoulders, like the volume kind of rises up and stuff. And then underneath the arms, you've got like that crease going in. And I was able to do that with the T-pose. The old model didn't have any of that musculature, so it looked really weird. And that was done in an A pose, or whatever it's called. I might have another pose that might demonstrate that a bit nicer. Yeah, the hands are like completely... Yeah, like this, where it's not as extreme, this pose. It's a bit more... But you can see there that the shoulders kind of sit nicer. So that's them in like a more resting pose. And you can actually see that there's like shading inside of the armpit. And yeah, old Gabby doesn't have armpits. So that's a added bonus. She has armpits now. Hooray. Anyway, that'll do it for me, guys. But thanks so much for sticking around and watching me model. I know a lot of this looks like witchcraft, and this is not the way you would normally model something, but because of the style, yeah. Hopefully it'll make sense when I make the devlog on it, because there's a lot of stuff to go through, but you'll see it kind of evolve over time. It's going to be one of those things where incremental progress is made. Then hopefully the outcome is going to be better. I know it'll be better. But I don't know exactly how, but I know it'll be better. So I'm looking forward to it. If you're looking forward to it too, make sure to hit the bell and subscribe so you don't miss the next stream. I'm going to be doing this every week until I finish this model. So tune in next Wednesday, 12 a.m. UTC, which might be Tuesday for the Americans. Not sure. You'll have to look that one up. But thanks so much, guys. Oh, K-Pathy just joined. Well, sorry, but I have to go. But join next week, 12 a.m. UTC. Thanks so much again. I'll catch you guys next week.